Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, this time out of Game Week 3, and it's the first Saturday morning deadline we have so far this season, and it's the last game week before the first international break of the new campaign. I'll be going live for the next couple of hours answering all your FPL questions, and if we hit our Super Chat goal, it'll be going on for even longer, answering UCL fantasy questions, talking about other topics as well. But let's sort out our teams. I haven't made a transfer just yet. Cole Palmer is red flagged and ruled out, as discussed in my predicted lineups video yesterday, but I have a few different avenues to replace him, which I also talked about in my team selection video several days ago, and I think the most likely would be to sell him to a Kudus, Sarr, or Semenyo, and then using those extra funds to take a -4 hit and upgrade Mark Guiu to Chris Wood. That would push Reinders to the bench, and the alternative is just to make one free transfer, one of those midfielders or Bruno Fernandes, to replace Cole Palmer. And of course, some people might even consider keeping him because he should be back by game week 4 or 5. But I think my strategy is to sell him, and then it just comes down to taking a -4 hit or using a free transfer. Let's get straight into your questions as always. Drop a like if you enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on 35,000 subscribers, and we're also going to get a lot of different goals throughout the season across all social media platforms. Those links can be found in the description, and I would highly recommend joining my Discord server for the updates in FPL and UCL Fantasy. The first question is by Jaren. Hey Dylan, would you start Saliba or Dan Burn this week? Saliba could get defensive contribution points against Liverpool, but ultimately I think the Reds will score. So Dan Burn has a better chance of a clean sheet, and whilst I don't think Newcastle will keep one, I think on paper they would have the better probability in Game Week 3. So I would lean towards Dan Burn this time round. Jaren says tempted to bench Ekitike for Solanke as I have Salah already. Well, the thing with Solanke is he probably won't start. I know it's up against his former club Bournemouth, but I think Richarlison has been in great form for Spurs, and I just don't see Solanke starting that game. So Ekitike has been brilliant for Liverpool so far. I know he's facing a very solid Arsenal defence on paper, but I will not be benching Ekitike at this moment in time. Okay, and everything is running smoothly, hopefully, but I don't want to jinx anything. I will talk about this later on, but I always have a few reservations about new updates and stuff like that. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, I've got no United attackers in my team, just Dorgu, so with 2 free transfers, is it worth selling Palmer and Guiu to Wood and one of Cunha, Mbumo, Kudus, Semenyo, Sarr? Yes, I think so. I mean, I literally just discussed it now. I know you put this comment earlier, but yeah, I think that is definitely worth it, and I don't really blame you for not having any United attackers in your team so far, but you've got Dorgu, and I still think it's a decent option at 4.5 million, at least against Burnley at home. But yeah, I think out of those midfielders you're mentioning, the most appealing to me for Game Week 3 is probably one of those United midfielders or Kudus, but yeah, even Ismaila Sarr, great record against Aston Villa. He's ranked very highly in my captaincy list, but I think long-term Semenyo might be the best play. And he obviously went up in price overnight to 7.3 million, but he has never scored or assisted against Tottenham Hotspur. There is a first time for everything, but I would prefer Kudus in that matchup, and I'll be comparing their stats later on. Cylindra says, or use one free transfer and sell Palmer to one of the midfielders and don't buy Wood. Well, that's something else I'm also thinking about. Nothing is set in stone for me, but I do like the -4 hit because I think Chris Wood is a top free captaincy option against West Ham, who have conceded 8 goals so far this season, and their underlying numbers are also quite poor. This team doesn't own any United, Haaland, Wood, so lacks a captain this week, so sell Jorginho and Palmer to which 2 of Sarr, any of the United attackers, Kudus, Semenyo, and bench Dewsbury Hall. It's a difficult one. I mean, buying Kudus and Semenyo, whilst it could work even this week when they're facing each other, typically it's not an orthodox strategy, you know? Buying 2 players from the same game on different sides. I do like the idea of buying Sarr and then one of Kudus or Semenyo, depending on whether you favour the fixtures. In that case, go for Kudus, even though Bournemouth are still quite decent. And if you're just favouring the kind of more potent attacking threat, I mean, Semenyo, for example, has 4 big chances to Kudus' 0. Well, if you look at the underlying numbers, I think Semenyo is a clear winner. So I think long-term it's probably Sarr and Semenyo. but I wouldn't mind Kudus whatsoever. I just think with the United attackers, it's kind of a game week free punt against Burnley at home, and whilst they can perform against the biggest and best clubs in the country, that attack hasn't clicked just yet. Easy says my main transfer out is Palmer to Cunha, then captaining him. Yeah, bold move. Obviously, he missed the penalty in the shootout. He's not the only one, of course, but I think Cunha will respond quite well. He is still in my top 6 of the captaincy list, and I'll be referring to it later on. My second team, either transfer out Mitoma or Tonali to cheapest mid attacking minded. Well, Tonali is an injury out. I think he will start, but Newcastle will start Lewis Miley. If that isn't the case, Mitoma has been very disappointing and he does cost 6.4 million, but yeah, I'm looking at that price point and below, and it's a bit of a shame because some of my favourite options in terms of the mid-price midfielders would be Semenyo, Kudus, and they are a little bit above that budget potentially. So it depends on what you have in the bank. If you can go to one of those options, I'd highly recommend it. Otherwise, it does become a little bit more difficult, but there are options like Elliot Anderson, Moises Caicedo, and I still like Reinders. Let's not forget about him just because he blanked against Tottenham, which I talked about actually going into Game Week 2. I felt the best time to buy Reinders, for those that didn't invest from the beginning, was actually Game Week 3. Kevy says, morning buddy, bit of a difficult week. Yes, hearing that Strand Larsen isn't with the team, I still have one free transfer with a few issues. Palmer, JSL, Bowen. Think it's okay to roll it? Thanks for that update. I didn't see that this morning. Literally just had breakfast and set the stream up, but I will adjust that. And you'll see my final predicted lineups kind of, showcase later on in this stream. But ultimately, I made that video and recorded it after all the Friday press conferences, or most of them had happened. I think Aston Villa was the only exception. So, yeah, I will look to adjust that and have Hwang Hee-chan start for Wolves instead of Strand Larsen, if that's the case. With your situation, the thing is with Jarrod Bowen, I still think he's not too shabby against Nottingham Forest. I've gone for a 2-0 Forest win, but would it surprise me if West Ham got a goal or two and Bowen was involved? Not really. I think he has a decent record against them, if my memory serves correctly. Cole Palmer isn't necessarily like a must sell, especially if he's back for Game Week 4, but at 10.5 million, I would be quite keen to sell him. Maybe take a -4 hit, as I discussed before, or maybe just replace him for free like Bruno Fernandes. I mean, I'll be locking in my team soon, and you'll see what I ultimately prefer. Welcome, Jamie. Good to see you. If you've got any questions, let me know, my friend. Or maybe not. Maybe you're just a hater. Kevy says, would love to have 2 free transfers in the international break if I could. Already use 1 free transfer to get Saka out. Yeah, I'd love to have that as well, but that's just not going to be the case. I'm going to use a free transfer, maybe even take a hit. So, yeah, international breaks is always a nice time to have multiple transfers at your disposal, or maybe wildcarding, but yeah, I think it also depends on the team situation. Easy says a lot of FPL content creators, aka experts, have a difficult start in the first 2 game weeks. I think a lot of people have had a difficult start. It's quite evenly matched, I think, in terms of just everyone and where they're at the moment, but things change very quickly, and we don't see massive gaps until later in the season. So if you are in a bad position right now, don't think about it too much, because we literally just had 2 game weeks, and there's a lot more to learn about the new season. Welcome, Baraf. Good to see you. What do you think about Johnson minutes after Simmons signed? Well, that won't be a concern just yet, of course, but moving forwards, I think Xavi Simmons can play as the attacking midfielder and also on the left, so his versatility will prove useful. But yeah, I think Johnson was never that secure anyway. Look at the UEFA Super Cup final. He didn't play a single minute against Paris Saint-Germain, but that actually played into Johnson's owner's hands going into Game Week 1 because he started against Burnley. But yeah, Johnson won't be that secure, and ultimately he has pace, he gets into some really good positions, but he does have a lot of limitations as a player, and Xavi Simmons is much better technically than Brennan Johnson, but of course they are different profiles as well. Bruno Fernandes is more likely people's captain with his role right now in United as a defensive midfielder. It's unlikely he will get big returns. The thing is, people say this, I still don't think his role is that different to last season. It's the same system, same manager. He's playing deeper alongside a Casemiro or Ugarte, so obviously this season it is Casemiro, and he can still get goals and assists from deep. He created 5 chances against Arsenal, had a good game, and I think a lot of people are maybe going cold on him because he missed a penalty against Fulham, but Bruno Fernandes is still a big game player. He is United's most consistent player since he signed for them, and he can get a lot of goal contributions. He was also nominated for the PFA Player of the Year award last season, despite Man United finishing 15th. So, look, I'm not saying Bruno Fernandes is a must-have. You have to buy him to replace Cole Palmer, but I also don't think he is a defensive midfielder and we should go nowhere near him because let's also not forget, I know it's not a huge factor, but he can get DEFCON points as well. So he can not only get goals, assists, take penalties, but he can also get additional points from different sources, and he's a bonus points machine. He's my vice captain for my second team behind Haaland, who I captained. Yeah, there are a few haters, by the way, in the comment section, like I talked to you about before, about you having two teams, but everyone has their own opinion. Kevy says, have the armband on Mbeumo this week. No Salah Haaland draft. Yeah, look, Brian Mbeumo has a good record against Burnley, and ultimately I think one of those United attackers will do very well, but maybe not two or three of them. So you might just have to have a bit of luck there in terms of picking the right one for Game Week 3, but they all have decent record against Burnley. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has 1 goal in 5 games against them, I believe, which isn't particularly great, but I think with Fernandes, he is the most reliable of those options. James123 says, I'm thinking of bringing in De Ligt and Cunha for this week, and then getting rid of Cucurella and Sarr. Okay, I like De Ligt and Cunha for this week, and I think De Ligt has had a great start to the season. I would not recommend selling Cucurella and Sarr. In the case of the latter, he scored 5 goals and got 2 assists against Aston Villa last season in 3 matches. He completely destroyed Unai Emery's team every single time he faced them. 7 goals throughout his career against the Villains. I think selling Sarr could be a mistake. And yes, I said this about Watkins last week, and of course he blanked against Brentford. But I think with Sarr, he's a good long-term option. At that price and below, you're not going to find much better, actually. And for those that can't afford Kudus or Semenyo, I think Sarr is a very decent alternative. So don't sell Sarr. And Cucurella is far better long-term than De Ligt as well. So you might be optimizing your team for Game Week 3 ever so slightly, but even that isn't a guarantee. So I'd keep what you have, to be honest. Serial Football says, hey Dylan, thoughts on this free hit 11? Sells, Milenkovic, Cher, Borro, Bruno, Cunha, Ndai, Barnes, Hallen captain, Chris Wood, Joao Pedro. I have the funds to get in Mbeumo, but not keen on triple United mids. I wouldn't be either. I don't recommend that whatsoever. If you want to go for a different midfielder here, I'd be recommending one of Kudus, Semenyo, Ismaila Sarr, and that also could help quite a lot, actually. But yeah, I mean, who would you sell to get Mbeumo in anyway? I think Barnes is perfectly reasonable this week. Yeah, Bruno and Cunha, you're not going to sell this week, actually. This is a free hit 11, to be fair, so it doesn't really matter if you have triple United. That would be something completely different. But if anything, I prefer having a defender like Dorgu or De Ligt to cover that United defence, because United are top of the clean sheet odds for Game Week 3. But it's a solid free hit team. I do like it a lot. I would recommend one of Sarr, possibly Kudus over Ndai. And I'm not really fancying that Newcastle clean sheet, to be honest. So I've actually gone for Sells and Milenkovic in my best free hit team video, so be sure to check that out. That'll be a great guide for you. I posted it 2 days ago. Yeah, I think Ndai is the kind of weak link, so to speak, in that starting 11, but I've got him starting. I hope he delivers, and if you do end up with him, hopefully he can deliver for both of us, actually. Silly Bear says, hi Dylan, I'm on wildcard. Should I go for Johnson or Sarr? I prefer Ismaila Sarr long-term, and someone else mentioned the possible repercussions of Xavi Simons signing for Tottenham Hotspur and what that means for Brennan Johnson. I'm not saying that guarantees that Johnson doesn't start anymore. I still think he'll get plenty of minutes, but he won't be as secure as he was beforehand. And even then, he didn't start in Spurs' most important game of the season so far against Paris Saint-Germain. But I'd rather go for Sarr personally. One last chaos before the international break begins. Yes, it's always chaos in FPL, it seems. Jorge Mota says, good morning, everyone. Portugal. Greetings to you, Jorge, and thank you very much for tuning in. Dylan, what do you think about Elanga? I like him against Leeds. Long-term, not so much. And despite scoring against Arsenal in pre-season, I haven't seen too much from Elanga just yet. He had some moments in Game Week 1 against Aston Villa, and his pace will be a problem for most Premier League teams. But I would rather go for Harvey Barnes this week. He has an incredible record against Leeds. I know, Ollie Watkins, I've got flashbacks. I'm traumatized. I kept mentioning that last week, but I do think sometimes it does play a factor. So I'll get the exact stats up for you right now. I do believe he's got 5 goals against Leeds United throughout his career, Harvey Barnes. So in a matter of 6 Premier League games, he has 5 goals, and across all competitions, that extends to 6 goals in 8 games. So I think Harvey Barnes would be a great punt on a free hit this week, and even long term, I think he's got more goal threat than Anthony Elanga. One of them could play up front if Newcastle decide to start Jacob Murphy and have Osula as an impact sub again. But I do think he deserves to start Osula. He had some decent moments in pre-season. He scored against Liverpool, and that is my current predicted lineup with Elanga on the right and Harvey Barnes on the left. What I'm going to do now quickly is adjust the Wolves starting 11 because I think Heavy did provide that update about Strand Larsen not being with the squad, and I did highlight the possibility that Strand Larsen wouldn't play and Hwang Hee-chan would replace him just in case. So I'm going to have that set up for later, and I'll be showing you all the lineups again. But of course, if you want full commentary and more analysis and press conference updates and stuff like that, check out that Predicted Lineups podcast from yesterday. It was posted quite late, but it had all the information. Sometimes going early, yeah, it's not the best thing because you don't have all the information. And in that video, everything that was covered on Friday and Thursday in terms of press conferences was all there actually. So I'm going to do this very quickly, and very soon I'll be showing you different graphics and screens in terms of the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating, also predicted points, and much more. So stay tuned for that. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And by October, we are looking to get to 35,000 subscribers and then push on from there. And also, when I do show my lineups, I would encourage you to just put down your thoughts. Maybe you have some disagreements about some of my picks. Ultimately, it's all about, you know, I think some of you would have even more insight, especially if you support a certain club and you might have other sources of information which maybe dispute something that I've gone for. So let's put Hwang in there. And I'm also going to verify it myself and see if I can find the link in terms of Strand Larsen not being with the squad, which would be a massive blow for Wolves. Obviously, he came off the bench and scored twice against West Ham in the Carabao Cup, but maybe he is pushing for a move. Or maybe he's just injured. Who knows at this point. So Hwang Hee-chan, 5.9 million. Let's put him in there. And that should be updated. So yeah, thank you, Kevy. I will check though, just in case, but I do trust what you're saying. And if you see anything else throughout this stream, maybe a major update, provide a link in the live chat and we'll all go through it and we can have a discussion about some of the key talking points in FPL. But yeah, I'm going to double check that as well, see if I can get the information now. Yeah, I haven't seen it just yet, and yeah, the Twitter search algorithm isn't great. I think 12 hours ago it was posted, Strand Larsen is not with the squad in the hotel tonight and is expected to miss tomorrow's game versus Everton due to injury, and the source is Liam Keane from the Express and Star. Yeah. Jeff Shee and Wolves are still adamant the striker will not leave the club this window. And credit to Talking Wolves, this is where I got the information from. So let's go to that page now, just so you can see what I read out. So there you go. That is basically why I just read out Strand Larsen is not with the squad, so that's why I'm going to provide you an updated version of the lineups from yesterday, and only one change at the moment, which is Hwang Hee-chan coming in up front, which we also saw in the Carabao Cup. He hasn't had a great start to the season, Hwang Hee-chan, but a few years ago he did show some potential, and I think he will get the nod even over the other striker options for Wolves. So let's now go into the FDR and stuff like that. So Aston Villa are still top until Game Week 8, and they do face Tottenham away, of course, in that particular game week. Wolves are second. Tottenham Hotspur, Leeds and Nottingham Forest complete the top 5. With the bottom 5, there's Arsenal, Brighton, Burnley, Everton and Chelsea. And with predicted points, Salah is still top with 7.4, facing Arsenal at home. Haaland is second. Fernandes, Watkins, Cunha, Mbeumo, De Ligt, Gakpo, Cucurella and Joao Pedro are in the top 10. This is my team, according to Fantasy Football Hub, with some provisional transfer plans, which include Semenyo coming in, which is their recommended transfer in the midfield. And they recommend Mateta up front, but I do opt for Chris Wood instead, especially for this week. And it does increase my team rating and the game week rating quite significantly, actually. since Cole Palmer is in my original setup. The only issue I have with the -4 here is that I also push Rangers to the bench, which I could see going south, but hopefully that isn't the case if I decide to go for this avenue. And I'm also quite keen on the likes of Ismaila Sarr and Kudus, especially for Game Week 3. I would rank both of them higher than Antoine Semenyo, but in the long term, I think the Bournemouth winger would be the best of the lot, but that is certainly up for debate as well. With price changes, live FPL.net anticipate that Ndoye, Mbumo, Chalobah, Cash, Rico Lewis, and Vicaria will go up in price. And as for price falls, they always recommend, or they always suggest a lot of price falls. It's not always going to be the case, but they say Buendia, Andres Pereira, Willian, and also let's see what other options are actually significant. Soucek, Fabio Carvalho, Gvardiol, who is out, that is confirmed as talked about yesterday. Fleming, who I thought would start the season, but he had his injury problems throughout pre-season, to be honest. And then, obviously, in my predicted lineups videos, I did update that, and I said Lyle Foster would start. Joelinton's another one. He's going to miss out in Game Week 3. There's a lot of price falls. Isak is another one, and we should see him come back into action around Game Week 4. Whether at Liverpool or Newcastle, that remains to be seen, but I think Liverpool is very likely now. Rasmus Højlund, Kulusevski. Other price falls there to look at, but not too much in terms of significant FPL assets, to be honest. Not at the moment, anyway. And for those wondering when is Palmer going to drop, apparently it's going to be in a couple of days. And actually, he went down in price overnight. He wasn't anywhere near it, I think, when I last checked, and that was maybe around 8 or 9 p.m. in the UK. But yeah, a lot of people sold him beforehand, so I lost a bit of team value there, I believe. So that's something else to think about. And I almost did Palmer to Semenyo overnight. That would have gave me, or saved me 0.2 million in terms of team value. With Bukayo Saka, he obviously went down to 9.9 million not so long ago, and we could see him go down in a matter of days as well to 9.8 million. And in terms of when he's going to return, that could be in Game Week 6 or 7. I think that's the most likely we're looking at, but nothing is confirmed just yet. I also put out some polls on my channel, and this shows you all my transfer plans, and I also let the people vote and, let me know their thoughts. So if we look at this here, the top option would be Palmer and Guiu to Semenyo and Chris Wood for a -4 hit. The second highest voted option is actually Kudus now. For most of the poll's duration, he was in third, but now that is occupied by Palmer to Bruno, and then starting Reinders. The last option would be Cunha, which is the exact same as the first option, but I go for Cunha instead of Fernandes. So ultimately, if you kind of break it down as well, 41% of you are recommending a free transfer, buy a United attacker, and then start Reinders. But the rest of you, and the winner, would be to get one of Kudus, Semenyo, maybe even Sarr, and then also getting Chris Wood up front for a -4 hit. And of course, my captaincy polls, which I do for most game weeks, Chris Wood is top, facing West Ham at home. Haaland is second, Bruno Fernandes is third, and Salah is fourth. Let's not forget, Salah has a great record against the top 6, including Arsenal, but I do understand why he is in last right now. In terms of the stats, I'm comparing Semenyo and Kudus this time round, and Kudus has the advantage in terms of creativity. But when it comes to goal scoring, there is no comparison. Semenyo has 7 shots this season to Kudus's 2. And just look at this, 6 shots inside the box to Kudus's 1. The XG is 1.59 for the Ghanaian. Well, I say Ghanaian, they both are Ghanaian, but you get my point. Kudus is 0.06, but at least when it comes to XA, Kudus does have a decent number there, while Semenyo does pale in comparison. None of them have a big chance created, but Semenyo has 4 big chances to his name, and Kudus also has 0. With key passes, Semenyo has 3, but Kudus has double the amount. And ultimately, for Game Week 3, I do prefer Kudus. He has a good record against Bournemouth in his career, but I think long-term Semenyo is the better asset, especially going into Game Week 9 and 10 when Tottenham's fixtures start to falter a little bit. Let's now go to live FPL.net. Actually, no, sorry, I'm getting my websites confused. FPL.team, which is a site I always recommend. So this is my current squad and how things stand at the moment. So I am looking to start Pedro Porro this week. Gabriel would be on the bench, and Ezri Konsa returns to the starting 11. And you'll obviously see that in my team selection graphics. For those that watched that video, of course, you know the drill by now. Renildo Mandava would probably be first on my bench as things stand, but doing something like this where Palmer goes down to one of Semenyo or Kudus. Let's just put Kudus in here for now. And then Guiu to Chris Wood. I can then push Reinders to the bench, which isn't exactly ideal, but there you go. And I would probably captain Chris Wood if I were to bring him in. Salah would be my vice. Reinders would be first on the bench. Yeah, let's see. Hopefully that actually works. There we go. And yeah, I would have 0.7 million left in the bank. But if I wanted Semenyo, I can still do it, I believe. Actually, no. No, I can't. I'm actually priced out now. Am I? No, I'm not. What am I talking about? No. Well, Palmer did go down to 10.4, so I think this is out of date. I would have to change this. So let's put Palmer back in. I think I might be priced out of this move now. So if I change the transfer price, so Palmer would be 10.4. Well, no. Palmer sell price 10.4, and then Semenyo. Okay, let's do that then. Yeah, I would be priced out of the Semenyo move now. Obviously, based on what happened overnight, Palmer went down to 10.4 million and Semenyo went up to 7.3. But I'll be honest, as much as I like Semenyo, he is the most transferred in player this week, and I do want to go a little bit different, and I do think Kudus is better. Ismail Assar's another one that I'm heavily considering, but he is the top voted option from yesterday's poll, actually. So, yeah, Semenyo will be out of the question for me. And instead of Semenyo, I think it's between Kudus or Sarr. That's where my attentions will lie. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat, of course. With the wildcard squad, I talked about this, of course, in that respective video, and not much has changed from that podcast, to be fair. I'd still be quite consistent with this structure, and of course, you can go for Mohamed Salah in the midfield, then downgrade Erling Haaland. Having both is still viable, but it does require sacrifices elsewhere, and with the free hit, I think this is a decent structure, but in that video, I recognize that United aren't reliable. So towards the end, I did highlight an alternative squad with only Cunha in the starting 11. And even then, you can change him to Danga or Ouattara and the other midfielder options I discussed. So you don't even need a United player in there. This is just the kind of squad I would go for on the free hit, but even that could be subject to change when it comes to those United players. I think Harvey Barnes could make it into the final squad. I really am bullish on him, but it's quite difficult to find a way over these midfielders and stuff like that. Maybe if I had to over Kudus, FPL.team are very bullish on United players. In fact, they recommend Bruno Fernandes as the captain, and you see here the expected points does go up to 61 overall. But yeah, Harvey Barnes, I'd recommend starting him for those on the free hit. I wouldn't be benching him, even though that was a possibility, of course, in that free hit video discussed the other day. With FPL Challenge, for some reason that website wasn't working for me until this morning. I am probably going to make some changes because this week, any players who score defensive contribution points won't just get 2 points, they will get 10 points for their efforts. And that's where having 2 or 3 defenders could come into play. But I do like Bruno Fernandes as a captaincy option. He can get DEFCON and also goals, assists, penalties, etc. Ismail Assar has a brilliant record, of course, against Aston Villa. And you can't go wrong with Erling Haaland or Chris Wood. So that is also subject to change. I did very badly last week in FPL Challenge, and to be honest, I should have changed Palmer, who was my captain, but I didn't change that when he got the injury in the warm-up, and I didn't make those modifications in time. So I just left it at that, and yeah, I got 0 points from my captain, and that, I think, explains the very bad score I got, even though I had a decent start in Gameweek 1. So let's now go back to my team for now. Later on, I'll be showing some different graphics and stuff like that, but I want to focus on your questions for at least a while, and then going back to other bits of, I don't know, FPL coverage, I guess. OK says, hey Dylan, really need your help. I'm at 7 million rank. Do I take a hit and remove Palmer or start Diouf instead? Best player on the bench, or should I free hit? Well, I don't know the rest of your squad, which makes it difficult to answer if you should free hit or not, but I would probably remove Palmer. I don't like starting Diouf against Forest. I think they will win. And even if West Ham were to get a result, I just don't see them keeping a clean sheet. They've been terrible defensively this season. Now, Diouf does have attacking potential. He's quite exciting to own, but I just don't trust West Ham. So I think removing Palmer to one of Fernandes, Kudus, Sarr, Semenyo, even Cunha could really work for you. And taking a -4 hit, which I discussed, of course, in some of my recent, analysis, is also not a bad idea to then get Chris Wood up front if you have Mark Guiu, of course. So yeah, thank you, Awali, and to all the other moderators. Yeah, as they say, just keep it civil, and your questions will be answered. Just be patient. Who to replace Palmer long term? Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? And I don't mind downgrading to a 6-7 million midfielder and then using those funds to get Chris Wood up front. That is my most likely transfer avenue this week. Then it just comes down to Kudus. Do I go for Ismail Assar? Semenyo is now out of the question for me, but I'm not that bullish on him for Gameweek 3 anyway, although I'd happily be proven wrong, of course, against Tottenham. Palmer to Bruno or any other better options? Yeah, I would go for Chris Wood over Bruno. You'll see my captaincy list very soon, Doctor. K34. There are alternatives to Bruno as well. I mean, there's Cunha from the same team. Mbeumo isn't bad. But I think you've also got Sarr, Semenyo, and Kudus. I'm very bullish on those three, actually. Semenyo long-term might be the best, but for Gameweek 3, yeah, I think it's between Sarr, Kudus, and you've also got the likes of Harvey Barnes if you want a short-term punt. Best mid-priced defenders. Lacroix is up there. He was in my Gameweek 2 Transits podcast. He's going to be a DEFCON machine. I still like the Forest defenders as well, and they've got some great fixtures coming up, with the exception of Arsenal away in Gameweek 4. So it's going to be a Forest defender, Lacroix. I would say Munoz and Borro are premiums at 5.5 million, but that's up for debate. If you don't see them that way, they could also class as decent mid-price defenders, but I don't think that's the case. Keep Rangers or Ndai. I'm keeping both of them right now, and if I were to bench one this week, it's probably Rangers, but it's very close actually. Everton did beat Wolves 4-0 last season, but that was at Goodison Park. At the Molineux, it was 1-1. Ndai didn't score in either game, no assist either, but I do think he has the capability of providing a return in such a game. Now, if I was wildcarding or I could make multiple free transfers, I think Ndai to Kudus would be on the cards, and I'd have a midfield of Kudus, Semenyo, probably still Salah, and then one other. But yeah, Ndai is another one I'd be looking to sell still, despite that return in Game Week 2. So I think if I had to pick long term, I'd rather keep Rangers. Bench 1, Gakpo, Rangers, Bowen. I'm probably going to say Rangers here. Close one. Would he do Rodgers to Semenyo? Not this week, no. I think Rodgers is slightly better on paper against Crystal Palace. I think Semenyo will blank against Tottenham personally, and I'd happily be proven wrong, but he has never scored or assisted against the Lily Whites. Sell Rangers for Sarr. I think for Game Week 3 that looks very enticing, but Rangers is still a good option. You bought him for a reason, and if you got him in Game Week 2, don't sell him just yet, just because he blanked against Tottenham. Start with Munoz or Watkins? Watkins for me. Start Evanuelson over Rangers. There's a lot of Rangers questions here. How close is that call? I think it's fairly close. I'll probably go for Rangers here. That's just the gut feeling I've got. Evanuelson had a decent record against the Big Six clubs last time out, but I would rather go for Rangers. It's really, really close, I think. Should I bench boost with Kelleher, Wirtz, Konsa, Estev? I would say no. It's not a terrible bench, but I think Estev will blank against Man United. Maybe gets DEFCON, which wouldn't be too shabby. Konsa against Palace isn't horrible, but I think Palace will score. I mean, Wirtz could score against Arsenal. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. As for Kelleher, just not really seeing the clean sheet, even against Sunderland. It's not a bad bench. Honestly, if you are bullish on it, back your gut, but I would probably lean towards no. Best defender for the next 3 game weeks. Tough one. Cucurella might be the one, actually. On wildcard, would you go Sarr or Kudus? I'll be honest, if I am to get one, it's more likely I'll get Kudus. But I do think Ismail Assar has the better underlying numbers, and he's got a great record against Aston Villa. The ceiling will be higher with Sarr, and he's going to score more goals than Kudus, but I also think the Spurs winger will get assists, and the fixtures are superior for Tottenham Hotspur. So it's a close one. I'm probably going to go for Kudus anyway. I'm either going to get points or jinx him. One way or the other, I'll be happy. Guys, subscribe to the channel. Let's go for 35k. Thank you, Awali. I appreciate your efforts. And if you've got a question or comment, let me know. But thank you very much. Dylan, best Frank Prong replacement. I have Aina, Van de Ven, Diouf, and Reynildo. Yeah, so Cucurella would be up there. assuming you've got a Chelsea spot available. Otherwise, I would say Munoz is a very decent long-term option. I don't like him against Aston Villa away necessarily, but beyond that, I think Munoz is a great shout. Richarlison's a good option short-term, yes. I just don't think he'll be the solution for the next, let's say, 5-6 game weeks. I think that could be a transfer waiting to happen. I'd rather buy Chris Wood, Mateta, despite the fact he hasn't scored in the Premier League so far this season. So, yeah, he's decent right now. He's in great form. I'd rather go elsewhere, though. My favourite Tottenham attacker is going to be Kudus. Johnson is the inform one, so to speak. And Xavi Simons is one to wait and see, especially when his price is revealed. But as things stand, I think up front, you've got other options there that are even better. Ahmed says, my FPL squad consists of Pickford, Dubravka, Estev, Cucurella, Dorgu, Wan-Bissaka, Pedro, Indai, Salah, Gakpo, Reinders, Sarr, Mark Guiu, and obviously that's Pape Mate Sarr, Chris Wood and Haaland. Any recommendations? Solid squad. In terms of starting this week is Pickford, Cucurella, Dorgu. So Pedro Lima. So just making sure. So is that Pedro Porro? Because you mentioned 4 defenders beforehand. Yeah, if that's Pedro Porro, you don't need to make a defender transfer this week. The midfield is fine. Even though long-term, I don't think Pape Mate Sarr is safe in that Tottenham team. I think actually he could be the one potentially dropping out for Xavi Simons. Yeah, Haaland, Chris Wood is absolutely fine as well. I just think the weakness of the team is having Guiu and Sarr. So you've got a family midfielder and a 4-point family and attacker. So ideally, you'd upgrade one of them and then have a consistent 7-man attack. So you've got maybe 5 midfielders and 2 forwards, or you've got 4 mids and 3 forwards. But yeah, let me know, by the way, if there's any background noise. If that's the case, I will deal with it. But yeah, it is a bit annoying. Jamie says, will Madueke be a rotation player or be a starter? Well, Saka's out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Madueke will probably start against Liverpool, I think. And long-term, he's not going to start over Saka. There's no chance of that. But I think that's what he was bought for. When Saka's injured or he needs a rest, Madueke comes in and hopefully does a decent job. But yeah, against Liverpool, I think he'll start on the right wing. On the left, I think Eze will also get the nod. But you've also got Martinelli, Trossard. And Arsenal finally have a bit of depth. Afnan says Mateta, Evanussen, Ekitike or Watkins long-term if money isn't an issue. I'm still going to say Watkins, but Aston Villa have been very poor so far this season, and that's basically me going for Watkins because of the player. You know, in the past, his record, more points than Haaland over the last 2 seasons and stuff like that. But if you're basing it off form, Ekitike is definitely the one. I think they're all viable options. Evanussen might be the bottom one, though, out of the 4. I think if I had to rank it, it's going to be Watkins first. I think Ekitike second, Mateta third, Evanussen 4th, but it's very close. And also Mateta is the cheapest, or is cheaper than the other 2 that I mentioned that are above him. Yeah, striker, as I mentioned before, you know, I was kind of waiting for the draw to be made because I could just basically say, yeah, I've got this amazing team, but I don't know who they're facing. They might even be facing each other, and it looks horrible when the fixtures are announced. But the draw was made 2 days ago. The plan is to make use of your fantasy content fairly soon, probably over the international break. So expect it within the next week. I'll make a first draft. It'll be similar to what I've done in the past, basically, in terms of the dates and also the kind of timings of when I publish that content. Barra says bench Dubravka, Anderson, Estev, Tielemans. It's not a terrible bench boost, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that. I mean, look, if you've got a good feeling, I mean, you've got to back it and go for it. You've got 2 bench boosts anyway. The same goes for every chip this season, but I'm not really feeling it personally. Already have Cucurella. Any other recommendations? I can't remember the question. If it's just a defender or the best one over the next couple of weeks, then I'd still put Munoz's name in the hat. A Forest defender as well. Arsenal way is the only exception for them, but with the other fixtures, I do like their chances. Hi, Dylan. How does price rises and falls work? Look, sometimes FPL do have, you know, manipulation to it. I think, yeah, there's not an exact science to it, but normally it is based off transfer activity. In UCL Fantasy, for example, it's based on player performances and how many points they score. In FPL, it's all about the amount of players or FPL managers getting these assets in and also selling them. So yeah, I can't really tell you exactly why this happened, but there you go. Should I buy Wood and I'll have Triple Forest, or get Joao Pedro or Mateta? They're all viable. I think over the next 3 or 4 game weeks, Chris Wood might be the best of the lot, especially when looking for a captaincy option this week. I think Chris Wood looks very, very enticing. Dylan, is Cunha a minutes risk this week because of the start in midweek? I get that point. The same applies to Sesko, and I think it'd be even more relevant there, but Cunha should start. He's been United's best attacker so far this season, at least in the Premier League. I think Cunha will start, to be honest. I think with Sesko, I'd have more doubts. It could be Mason Mount again as the left inside forward and Cunha up front, but yeah, I'd be more concerned about Sesko than Cunha. Yeah, I think Watkins is good for the game week, but he has been very poor. He needs to deliver soon, otherwise people will just pull the trigger, and he's going to be a big FPL troll, to be honest. What I'm going to do is just deal with the background noise. Like I said, when I'm back, and it's going to be only a few seconds, I'm going to go through different screens. I'll show you my team selection graphics, and ultimately, with the Semenyo thing that I discussed in my team selection 2 days ago, I am priced out of that move. If I also want to buy Chris Wood up front to replace Mark Guiu, I could go for Mateta, to be fair, but I am more keen on Chris Wood. So if I were to sell Palmer as part of a -4 hit, expect one of Kudus or Ismail Assar to be the final piece of the jigsaw in the midfield, and Reinders would drop to the bench. So if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for FPL and UCL Fantasy, and keep your eyes peeled, of course, for the return of the Champions League over the international break. I'll be making UCL Fantasy content and also some FPL bits and bobs along the way, and expect a lot more detailed coverage heading into Game Week 4 of Fantasy Premier League, of course, and a reaction stream should be imminent. It probably will happen tonight. I'm not able to do it tomorrow, I believe. So yeah, expect a reaction stream tonight, and I'll keep you posted if anything changes. And after that, there might be a few days off with FPL content, but I'll be working behind the scenes to prepare the next set of videos for Fantasy Premier League and UCL Fantasy. So I'm going to deal with this very quickly, and then I'm going to be back answering your questions and also having different graphics on screen. That was quick. I told you. I wasn't lying. So these are my team selection graphics. If you did see my video the other day, then you obviously would have seen this by now. I have updated the expected points and also some of the price changes. But yeah, I think Cole Palmer, for example, did go down, despite the fact it was nowhere near it in livefpl.net when I checked at the time. But maybe a lot of people, you know, made that transfer just before the prices change, which I believe is around 1:30 a.m. in the UK. And if you join the Discord server, you'll know exactly when they happen, also with the goals, assists, bonus points, etc. So these are my transfer plans. Palmer to Fernandes for free is viable. The same goes for Kudus. And even though I put Semenyo in here, and I could still buy him, to be honest, but if I want to get Chris Wood up front, it has to be Ismail Assar now instead of Semenyo, because of the price changes. I'm now obviously priced out of that move, but this was my most likely team selection for Game Week 3, which included Bruno Fernandes in the midfield, using one free transfer and avoiding Chris Wood, just going for Reinders in the starting 11. It doesn't look too shabby. I'm not saying it's suddenly horrible, but I have to be honest, I have to say, I'm just going to go for the -4 here, I believe. That is what I'm most likely going to go for, but yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. Of course, nothing is set in stone, but that -4 hit has looked very appealing. I even discussed that in my team selection podcast as well. So all of those updated stats can be found there. And I'm also going to go here to the scoreline predictions. I made a few alterations. Chelsea 2, Fulham 0. So I kind of swapped that scoreline with the United one. I think one of those games will be 1-0. The other one will be 2-0. So this is my final prediction, I guess. Chelsea 2, Fulham 0. Man United 1, Burnley 0. Tottenham 2, Bournemouth 1. So I've changed that a little bit too. Brentford 2, Sunderland 1 at the Stadium of Light. Wolves 1, Everton 1. Leeds 2, Newcastle 3. So I have gone for a 2 win for the first time this season. Brighton 1, Man City 3. Nottingham Forest 2, West Ham 0. Liverpool 1, Arsenal 1. And I've gone for a 2-2 draw between Aston Villa and Crystal Palace. So I've made a few changes to the scoreline predictions from yesterday. And yeah, I think a lot of these games are quite difficult to predict. So next up is the team weakness, and I think West Ham is definitely a team to target this season, and they concede a lot of chances in central areas, but to be honest, they are leaky all over the pitch. But what you can see here is the shot volume. So the heat map indicates Chris Wood's shots this season, and the blue circles indicate the shots and the areas where West Ham concede their shots in this Premier League campaign so far. And there is a nice little alignment, in my opinion, especially in the penalty area. But if you look at the clean sheet odds this week, yeah, Man United are top. We'll see how that goes, but I do think they will keep one against Burnley at home. Nottingham Forest are second, Chelsea are third, and I do back all of them to keep a clean sheet in my scoreline predictions. Aston Villa are fourth, Tottenham Hotspur are fifth, and Wolves are sixth. Burnley are the least likely, facing Man United away with a 13% probability. And I have been asked this question, of course, about the captaincy. Maybe not as much as last week, but this is my current list, and there are some changes actually from what I discussed in my best wildcard team video. Erling Haaland remains top, Mohamed Salah is second, and Chris Wood is third. And if I were to bring in Chris Wood, it's between Salah and Wood for the captaincy, and I might just go for Chris Wood anyway. I don't necessarily like captaining a player against my favourite club. Bruno Fernandes is fourth, Joao Pedro fifth, Cunha, Sarr, Barnes, Ndoye, and Watkins are in the top 10. So Richarlison drops out. I have changed things up a little bit there, and ultimately there are even more where that came from. But I was quite appealed by Barnes' record against Leeds United throughout his career, and I think he deserves an honourable mention at least, but he does make it into the top 8, can't even speak, of this captaincy list. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat. Do you agree or disagree? Are there any other players you would include in terms of the captaincy debate? And who are you going to go for with the armband this week? What I also want to show you as well is the updated transfer tips, because certain players, you know, their injury status has changed. But Bruno Fernandes, his ownership is quite constant and it hasn't really changed too much at 21.3%, but I think it might have changed a little bit overnight, of course. Chris Wood obviously had a few price rises over the last couple of weeks. He remains a purchase. Ekitike is a clear hold. There's no doubt about that. I think Rodgers, whilst it's debatable, is also a hold. And Ait Nouri went from a sell in my Transfers podcast to a hold because Pep Guardiola said that he's fine. And he was also called up to the Algeria squad. He did go down to 6 million, I believe, but he is still worth holding. With Cole Palmer, he's obviously 10.4 million now. I think he's a sell, even though he could be back for Gameweek 4. Bukayo Saka is a bit of a longer-term concern. He'll probably miss the Forest game, possibly Man City as well, but some reports indicate that Arsenal are hoping he's back for Gameweek 5. Either way, though, he is a sell. He's 9.9 million and could go down even further. Anthony Gordon was originally a purchase, but that video was recorded before the Monday night game between Newcastle and Liverpool. I think he's ultimately a sell. Don't go near him, of course, until Gameweek 6. And Calafiori is a skip, despite a great start to the season with 1 goal and 2 assists, 26 FPL points. I think Calafiori isn't worth investing in right now. And Chalobah could go up in price tonight to 5.1 million. His ownership has almost doubled since I talked about him the other day. I think he's also worth skipping. And my 1 week punt is Matheus Cunha. And this was my top tip before that game in midweek against Grimsby Town. But I still stand by it. I think the likes of Cunha and Bruno Fernandes could produce a massive response against Burnley. The same goes for Brian Mbeumo and Amad Diallo in that United midfield. So that is what I've gone for at the moment. And of course, Cunha went up in price to 8.1 million. His ownership is now at around 13%. And the last thing I want to show you before focusing fully on your questions are the predicted lineups. But I'll go for them very briefly because there is that video from yesterday. And I think that covers a lot of your questions as well. So I do think Madueke will start on the right. And whilst it's not a certainty, as Martinelli has a great record against Liverpool, I think Eze will get his first Premier League start for Arsenal and also his first appearance in general for the Gunners. The back five should be quite consistent. And when I say back five, I mean Raya in goal and the 4 defenders. So Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafiori, Zubimendi, Odegaard and Rice and Gyökeres up front. But if Odegaard is unavailable, I think Marina will come in and Arsenal will go for a bit more height in that midfield. With Aston Villa, they've got a few injury concerns, so Onana is also ruled out. The same goes for Kamara, and that was talked about at the end of my lineups video yesterday. So Martinez in goal, Cash, Konsa, Mings, Luka Dean, Tielemans, McGinn, Marlon, Guesson, Rodgers, and Ollie Watkins. I think those changes actually, and the injuries to Kamara and Onana, while they won't help Aston Villa defensively, I think it could unlock the likes of Rodgers and Watkins with more creativity and pace on either side of them. The third team is Bournemouth. Let me know in the live chat, do you think they should be first in alphabetical order? AFC Bournemouth, let me know what you think. Petrovic in goal, Smith, because Araujo is injured anyway, Diakate, Senesi and Troffert in that defensive line, Scott and Adams, Semenyo on the right, Brooks on the left, and then Tavernier just behind Evanilson. But Christie and Cliver are back, and they could make some appearances off the bench. With Brentford, I think they'll go for Kelleher, Coyote, Collins, Vandenberg, Lewis Potter, Henderson, Yarmulke, Danga Ouattara, Damsgaard, Schade, and Igor Thiago. The next team is Brighton with Verbruggen, Vifa, Van Heck, Dunk, De Kuyper, Baleba, Ayari, Minter, O'Reilly, Mitoma, and Danny Welbeck. A lot of them have gone down in price, of course. And with Burnley, it could be Dubravka, Walker, Ekdal, Estev, Hartman, Ogochukwu, Colin, Bryn Larson, Hannibal Miebury, Anthony, and Lau Foster. But both Breuer and Fleming started in midweek in the Carabao Cup. And we could also see Son, or Sonne, the Peruvian, who is a right back. He could start as a right midfielder and Burnley go for something a bit more defensive against Man United. And of course, the Peruvian scored the winning goal for Burnley in midweek. And by the way, the numbers, what they mean, I discussed this in my lineups video yesterday, is how many I've gotten right so far this season. And all of my final predictions can be found in the deadline stream. So that's what it's based off. With Chelsea, it's 19 out of 22. So Sanchez in goal, James, Chalobah, Tosin Adarabioyo, Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Esteval? Yeah, Joao Pedro, Neto, and Delap. That is my predicted Chelsea lineup. With Crystal Palace, it's one of several teams I'd say that I've gotten fully correct so far. Henderson in goal, Richards, Lacroix, Mark Gay, Wharton, Kamada, Mitchell, Munoz, Sarr, Devaney, and Mateta. With Everton, Jordan Pickford, O'Brien, Tarkowski, Keane, and I think Mikalenko will return to that starting lineup with Idrissa Gana Gay and Ghana in the midfield, in Dye, Dewsbury Hall, Grealish, and Tierno Barry as the attacking line. Fulham would have Leno in goal, Tete, Anderson, Bassi, and this is the difficult one because Harry Wilson, I believe, is now yellow flagged actually. So if Wilson is injured, we could see Sessegnon as the right winger and then Robinson as the left back. So that also remains to be seen. Sandenberg and Lukic in the midfield. Harry Wilson, if fit, should start on the right-hand side. Iwobi on the left. Josh King just behind Rodrigo Muniz. But of course, Smith Rowe is pushing for a start as well. Perry, Bogle, Rodon, Biol, and Goodmanson is the likely defensive line, but we could see Pascal Stroke take or retain his spot in that lineup. Stack would be in the midfield alongside Longstaff, and I think Gruev will replace the injured Ampadu, and of course Tanaka is also out. James, Nonto, and Piru is also the probable forward line there for Leeds. With Liverpool, it's Alisson, Bradley, Kanate, Van Dijk, and Kirkes, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in the midfield, Salah, Wirtz, Gakpo, and Ekitike, who has been brilliant so far this season. And with Man City, there are always concerns about this lineup, but I've gone for Trafford in goal, Mateus Nunes, Ruben Dias, Stones, Ane Nuri, also Reinders, Gonzalez, and Bernardo Silva. I think Foden will start, as well as Doku and Erling Haaland. But yeah, I believe Ait Nuri is now no longer yellow flagged. I have to double check that. I mean, he should be based on Pep Guardiola's comments. So that is another update, of course, from yesterday. Bayende, Yoro, Delict, Shaw, Amad Diallo, and Dorgu as the wing-backs. Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes, Imbumo, Cunha, and I think Seska will start, but that isn't a guarantee. We could see Mount as the left inside forward. And with Newcastle, if Tonali isn't fit, it'll be Lewis Miley as the holding midfielder. But assuming that all these players are available, I think it'll be Pope, Trippier, Cher, Byrne, Livramento, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Jacob Ramsey replacing the injured Joelinton, Alanga, Barnes, and Osula. But don't be surprised to see Jacob Murphy on the right, and then one of Barnes or Alanga as the false nine. We are approaching the end, of course, of the teams. Nottingham Forest, I've gotten spot on so far this season. One of the easiest teams to predict. Now watch me get a few wrong against West Ham at home. Sells in goal, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Nico Williams, Sangari and Anderson in the midfield. Ndoye on the right, Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left, and Gibbs White alongside Chris Wood, the main man this week. With Sunderland, only one incorrect prediction so far, but I think Roofs will be in goal. then Hume, Mukiele, Alderete, and Reynildo Mandava in that defensive line. Ballard is out for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Siddiqui, Diarra, and Jack in the midfield. Talbi, Adingra, and Mayenda up front. With Tottenham Hotspur, Vicario, Borro, Romero, Van der Ven, Jed Spence, Paulinho, Sarr, Bentancur, Kudus, Johnson, and Richarlison is my predicted lineup. And with West Ham, Hermansen, Todibo, Kilman, Agurd, Wan-Bissaka and Diouf, Soucek, Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, Bowen, and I think Callum Wilson could start. And with Wolves, based on the report from 12 hours ago, I think Hwang Hee-chan will start over Strand Larsen. That is a key change from yesterday's video. Jose Sarr in goal, Doughty, Agbadu, and Bueno. Joao Gomez and Andre in the midfield. And I think Chichawa as the right wing back, but that could be Rodrigo Gomez, of course. Wolf on the left, and then Manetzi and Arias just behind Hwang Hee-chan. So maybe later on I'll show you the lineups again whilst answering questions, but in terms of commentary, just watch that video from yesterday. I think that's the best thing you can do. And now for the remainder of this deadline, I'm going to be answering your questions and making transfers. Otherwise, I'll forget and I will regret not making moves, because I think there are points to be gained from making a few transfers and moves, maybe taking a -4 hit, or just sticking with those freebies. So let's get into your questions again. Like the video, I do appreciate it. Thank you to Beast Shorties. Hey Dylan, hope you're doing great. Start 2. Yeah, I wouldn't start Calafiori this week. It would be Cucurella and Richarlison. I do like Reinders. I'm not a big fan of benching him this week, but yeah, it's probably Cucurella and Richarlison based on my predictions here. Kudus or Semenyo? For Game Week 3, I prefer Kudus. I think you'll outscore him, but longer term, yeah, I think Semenyo has the underlying stats. He's a talismanic figure for Bournemouth. Now, some people might argue, would that change once Cliver is back starting for Bournemouth? That's a possibility, but I think Semenyo will still be the talisman. I'm going to say, well, in my case, I'm going to go for Kudus. I've also kind of been priced out of that sort of decision. But yeah, for Game Week 3, it's definitely Kudus for me. Burnley could win today. Yeah, they definitely could. I've gone for 1-0 Man United. A few days ago, I went for 2-0, so I'm kind of like having second thoughts about them, but I think they'll get the win. I have pots and I have 5.8 million, or is that 5 in the bank? I go with Sarr from Spurs. I don't really like that long term. Sarr might be decent against Bournemouth, and if he starts in Game Week 4, but I think he could be on the bench fairly soon, actually. Not this weekend, but I think long term we could see Sarr as a bench option. Yeah, I would have Cucurella on a wildcard team, but it also depends on how you cover Chelsea and Forest defensively. So, for example, you could save money by going for Sanchez in goal and then a Forest defender, as opposed to going for Sells in goal and Cucurella in that defensive line. So it also depends on your budget, but ideally, I'd recommend Sells in goal and Cucurella. If any, which teams would you double up on in the attack midfield? Liverpool, with Salah and Ekitike, or Gakpo and Ekitike. Even having those two midfielders, which I currently have in my setup, would also be a viable choice. But yeah, I think Liverpool is definitely one that springs to mind. Other teams, well, Chelsea with Joao Pedro and Palmer was the one. Obviously, with Palmer being out in Game Week 3, that does change things a little bit. So it's really just Liverpool, and that's more so a long-term thing, not against Arsenal. Apart from that, I don't mind Forest for the next 4, actually. So Ndoye and Chris Wood would be decent, especially against West Ham at home. So I'm not against that. But really, it's Liverpool at the moment. Okay, so there is a super chat in the building. Thank you to PC Gamertag. Best Palmer replacement, Sarr, Bruno, Kudus. I'd also add Semenyo's name to that list long term. There's also Cunha. Those 5 have been heavily considered this week. I think the best one for Game Week 3 is Bruno Fernandes, and you saw my captaincy list a few days ago. Well, yes, you did, and also a few minutes ago. Long term, I think the best one is Ismaila Sarr, actually. If I'm being completely honest, removing all, kind of bias or anything like that aside, I do think Sarr has the underlying numbers, good performances so far this season, scored in the Community Shield final, and also against Forest in Game Week 2. Yeah, it's probably Ismaila Sarr long term. Larga says, good day, Dylan. Who would you pick between Ndoye, Hudson-Odoi, and Gibbs-White? I go for Ndoye. I've been impressed by him so far this season. He had a decent summer as well, not just for Forest, but also for his previous club. and he ended the last campaign strongly. He scored goals, I think, back in June for his country, so there's a lot to like there with Ndoye. Hudson-Odoi has 2 goals against West Ham in his last 180 minutes against them. Yeah, and obviously he scored against Crystal Palace. I think Hudson-Odoi is decent in weeks like this as a 1-week punt, but I think longer term, Ndoye and Gibbs-White would be ranked higher. I do like the way you're thinking, though. I also try to bear in mind how a player has performed against the club in the past, aka Ollie Watkins, captain last week, but sometimes it can go well. Yeah, I'm going to say Ndoye for me. He's also 9th in my Campsy list as well, so I'd be very bullish on him. Harrison James says, hey Dylan, hope you've had a good week. Conundrum, start 2, Milenkovic, Dorgu and Livramento. I'd bench Livramento. I think Milenkovic and Dorgu are more likely to keep a clean sheet. Thank you, Paredes, for the super chat. What's the first potential wildcard game week? Yeah, great question. I mean, it is team dependent as well, right? I would say game week 8 is probably a very good time to wildcard. Even game week 7 with Arsenal's fixtures turning for the better. I'd say game week 7 is the first, like, really good one on paper in terms of fixture swings for some of the top teams in the country. Captain in game week 3. Well, I did show my Campsy list earlier. I will go through it again very soon, but I did have Haaland first, Salah second, Chris Wood third. If I buy in Chris Wood, I'll probably captain him, just so I can avoid captaining Salah against my team. But yeah, that's all definitely up in the air. Bruno Fernandes is 4th, and I've put Joao Pedro in 5th. But yeah, that is my Campsy list at the moment. Jinx Semenyo, most bought player for game week 3. I don't think he'll return against Tottenham. Long term, he's a great choice. I think it's a good transfer, but not against Tottenham. And I said something similar about Rangers last week as well. Thank you to Anish for the super chat. I do appreciate all the patrons, members, and super chatters. So Anish says, Sells, Murillo, Porro, Romero, Dorgu, Salah. Let me see if you're highlighted. Yeah, you are. Bruno, Reinders, Dango, Mateta, Watkins, Dubravka, Paqueta, Guiu, Esteve. Should I get Newcastle players? The only Newcastle player I'd recommend right now is Harvey Barnes. He has 5 goals against Leeds in the Premier League throughout his career, 6 goals in 8 games across all competitions. Maybe Paqueta to Barnes if you can stretch to that. That would look really good. The alternative, though, I mean, you don't have Palmer, otherwise I'd recommend that downgrade. Then using those funds to upgrade Guiu to Chris Wood, that would look really nice. But you've got a good midfield and attacking line anyway, to be honest, mate. I like what you've got. My only concern, I think I said this to you in the past, you've got 2 defensive double-ups in Spurs and Forest. Whilst the Spurs one is performing so far, I don't think they'll keep many clean sheets in the long term. I think they will start conceding goals. So far, they perform well. I'm not saying get rid of all your Spurs players because that isn't the right thing to do, but it's just something to bear in mind because you're putting your eggs in 2 defensive baskets in Forest and Tottenham. I think 1 double-up is enough. So yeah, if you are to make a transfer, I think Paqueta to Barnes looks really appealing. Otherwise, you've got Ismail Assar and Kudus. I think those are decent options as well. But you mentioned Newcastle players specifically, and Barnes is my recommendation. Thank you very much. And also to Paredes for gifting 10 memberships. So big up to yourself, as always. It is massively appreciated. So Mandip Hill, maybe Hill is not the way to say it. I'm saying it in a Spanish way. Mr. Iceman, JT, Akraf, Mad Max, Joshua Kauser, Andrew Barton, also Commonplace, Simon Lawrence. Enjoy those memberships for an entire month. You'll gain early access to my videos, priority reply to comments, and many other perks. So big up to yourselves. That Air says, hey Dylan, start Sar or Reinders? I'd start Ismail Assar. He is 7th in my Campsy list. I keep saying bench Reinders in a lot of these scenarios. I don't like it. I'll be honest. I think Reinders could do well against Brighton, but I think Sar's ceiling against Villa is even higher, especially with Villa missing 2 key defensive midfielders in Onana and Kamara. So I'm going to say Ismail Assar here, but I like both of them. I really do. Let me see if I've missed out any questions from members from before, because there's a lot of things that have been discussed in the live chat, and I also went through different screens as well, providing the full coverage for Game Week 3. Ahmed says, hi Dylan, does it need taking a -8 to get Pedro, Cunha, Gibbs White? I don't think so, mate, no. A -8 does seem a bit steep. Whilst I like all those options you're talking about bringing in, who are you selling to make that happen? I'm not convinced. I have Haaland, Wood, best third striker, best 5 midfielders. Probably Joao Pedro long term. Even as an attacking midfielder, he's very appealing. And in the absence of Cole Palmer, I think Joao Pedro is on penalties for Chelsea. 5 midfielders, it depends on the context. So are you talking about Game Week 3 or long term? So I have made videos on that specifically. So in my best wildcard team, you can see my favorite 5 midfielders in the long term. And in the free hit, you can see my favorite options for Game Week 3 specifically. But yeah, for this week, I'm going to say Sarr, Ndoye, Salah, Barnes, and potentially Kudus. Something like that looks really enticing. Long term, though, I'd have some different options in there. And of course, you can see that in my video. The Wildcard podcast, like Gakpo, he's been in brilliant form so far this season. The fixture doesn't look great against Arsenal, but he scored against them a couple of months ago, and he has been outstanding for the Reds so far. It doesn't put you off making the Palmer out change now. They dropped in price earlier. Yeah, that's a good question. Not too much. I mean, it's a bit of a shame. I actually thought he'd go down in price tonight, not yesterday. I'm not sure what happened there with livefpl.net or if there was a sudden surge in transfers out. But yeah, I'm still quite settled on selling him because whilst I can just start Reinders and I've got a decent, midfield. I mean, yeah, I have one of Gabriel, Renilo Mandava coming on. And by the way, I'd probably swap this again. That's something I forgot to do in my FPL actual team selection. So there you go. Yeah, I think there is a big ceiling and a lot of points to be gained by selling Palmer. And in some cases, I mean, keeping Palmer, benching him, then just getting a forward transfer in like Chris Wood, I mean, that'd be ideal, but I don't have the funds to upgrade Guiu to Chris Wood. I'm not looking to sell Watkins this week, so yeah, I think Palmer is going to be the sacrifice, but I completely get your question. It's a valid one. I'm just not really feeling it that much in terms of the price changes. Hope you have a good season. Gyökeres out for Wood or save transfer? I like Gyökeres a lot. I think he'll do well this season, but I think Chris Wood over the next 4 does outscore him, and he's a captaincy option this week, so I'd say buy Chris Wood if you can. Thank you, Anish, for the super chat. 4.5 in the bank. Should I go for Wood or Barnes? I'd go for Chris Wood. He is third in my captaincy list. He also faces Burnley and Sunderland very soon, and Harvey Barnes I like a lot against Leeds, potentially against Wolves as well. Beyond that, though, I think Chris Wood has better fixtures, he's more reliable, and ultimately he is worth that 7.7 million price tag. Who to bench? Yeah, so if you were to buy either one, and I'm recommending Chris Wood, I would bench probably Reinders, unfortunately. Actually, you've got 4 defenders, don't you? Yeah, I'd bench one of those Spurs defenders. Probably Romero. Thank you as always. That's the way I was leaning after seeing the clean sheet predictions. Yeah, so I also showed the clean sheet odds and my scoreline predictions, but obviously my ones are completely subjective, and sometimes I get it horribly wrong. Play Guiu or Van Dijk? I'd play Van Dijk. He could get DEFCON against Arsenal, and a clean sheet isn't impossible, I think. It could be a low-scoring game, but we'll see. Harrison James says, my free hit team. Bench has Esteval and Livramento in case. I think that's perfectly fine. I like your squad. Harvey Barnes is a great shout. You could even consider Sarr in the midfield. That front line is obviously what I'd love to have this week, and I'll probably buy Chris Wood in the end. But yeah, looks really solid. I'm also quite keen on doubling up on Forest defensively, even though West Ham have a lot of attacking quality still in Paqueta and Jared Bowen. Play Van Dijk or Konsa. It's a very close one, to be honest. It's not settled, but I'd probably go for Konsa. Okay, bench Reinders or Semenyo. This might be an unpopular opinion. I would probably bench Semenyo. Yeah. So I'm just going to have a quick look on Twitter. I just saw someone in the live chat say Barnes is out. I'm not sure what that is, what's happened there. I'm not sure where you got that from, but yeah, be very careful if you see something online. Okay, I just saw NUFC Will, who sometimes gets it right, other times maybe not so much. He says Barnes is out, or just has an X next to it, so I'm not sure if he's benched or injured. I'm assuming it's the latter. Yeah, that is not great. I also was quite bullish on Barnes today. But there you go, these things happen. I guess I'm jinxing these Newcastle players this week with Anthony Gordon as well. But Yeah, I'm going to show you the source just so you can make your mind up. I'm not saying sell Barnes or avoid him. I'm just putting it out there so you know the rumors surrounding him. So thank you, Cooker, for pointing it out in the live chat, a member of the channel. That's simply what it says, Barnes X. Quite surprising, actually. So if that's the case, yeah, maybe just go for Ismail Assar instead for those free hitters. But take with a pinch of salt. Maybe it's wrong. I hope it is, but yeah, it's not looking good at the moment. Let's try to get this video to 100 likes first and foremost, and then we'll go to 200 plus. That is the aim. Thank you to those that have done so already. Subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And a big up to Paredes for the 10 memberships, and to all the patrons, members, and super chatters. Thank you very much. Lager says, Ndoye, Kudus, or Johnson. For Game Week 3, my favorite is Ndoye. I'll be honest though, what I'll likely do is buy Kudus and Chris Wood myself and balance it out a little bit. Ismail Assar is also a heavy consideration for me. Despite Brendan Johnson's great start to the season in terms of output, I think he was very poor in the summer, and he didn't start Tottenham's most important game against Paris Saint-Germain in the UEFA Super Cup final. So, look, I'm not saying Brendan Johnson is a complete avoid. He does have some value in there. He'll score more goals than Kudus, in my opinion, but I think with the assists as well and Kudus's minutes, I'd rather go for the Ghanaian. So yeah, big up to Cooker again for pointing out the Harvey Barnes rumour. Once again, I have to stress it's a rumour, but sometimes NUFC Will does get it correct. I'm not sure if there is a reliable Newcastle reporter except for Craig Hope, and I think there's also Keith Downey from Sky Sports, if I've named them correctly. But yeah, I'm going to go back to my team for now, and I'm going to make some transfers, I think. So, despite putting a poll out on my channel, I want to see what you lot in this particular live stream think of my transfer plans, and it has changed a little bit. Semenyo is still an option for me. I can get him for free, but I can't get Chris Wood at the same time, basically, for Mark Guiu. So, these are my final transfer plans. It also kind of covers any questions about what are you doing this week. It's all going to be in the poll, so just have a look there. So, it's going to be Palmer. Let's get the bloody green. Let's get the arrow. Okay, just putting this poll out, and then I'm going to be back with you very shortly. So Palmer to Fernandes, and then start Reindeers. Do I have enough? Oh, just about enough. Palmer to Semenyo. Is it Semenyo and Guiu? Semenyo, Mateta, -4. Wow, I'm exactly the amount of characters. That's great. Great feeling. No runes. As discussed in my lineups video yesterday and throughout this podcast and live stream, Palmer is out. There's a reason why he's red flagged. If any player's red flagged, that means he's not going to play. So yeah, Palmer is possibly back for Game Week 4, maybe 5. The injury isn't too serious, it seems, but yeah, he's out for Game Week 3. He's not going to play in the Saturday lunchtime kickoff against Fulham. So yeah, Palmer, Guiu to Semenyo, Mateta -4. The other ones, so yeah, Palmer and Guiu to Kudus and Wood -4. And then Palmer, Guiu. Oh yeah, that's going to be... Yeah, I'd say Sa is the other one. Okay. I think that's the limit. I will likely bench Reindeers. Okay, so that's the full context. I think I've written it all correctly. If that's the case, you can see my final predictions, my final transfer plans in the live chat. And of course, Cunha isn't even completely ruled out, but I don't think I'll go there this week. So yeah, be sure to cast your vote. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll be helping you lot out with your teams as well. Chelsea differential. Well, I guess Chalobah. He's also going to go up in price tonight, but I'm not really a fan of that. I did discuss skipping him in my Transfer Tips podcast. I guess Caicedo is fine. I'm not sure if he's a massive differential, to be honest. I'm not sure if that is the case, actually. So let me actually check his ownership very quickly. So his ownership is, oh my, I don't know why FPL loves to log me out, and that could be an issue actually for me before the deadline. I can actually see that happening one day, where it logs me out just before I want to make a transfer, and it's really, really annoying. I hope they fix that. So yeah, Caicedo's ownership is 6.6. I think he's absolutely fine. I mean, 5 points against Palace, despite not getting an attack in return. 8 points against West Ham. He's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. So yeah, I think Caicedo would probably be my favorite differential, so to speak. Any team news for the early game yet? No, obviously we know Palmer is out. That is kind of confirmed. But yeah, Harvey Barnes is a potential absentee for Newcastle this weekend, albeit that doesn't answer your question, I guess. Forest differential, Ndoye. He's had a great start to the season, returns in both matches so far, so I think so. What do you mean Chelsea here? I didn't even hit on Chelsea just now. What did I say? What the hell? Maybe it's in the live chat, actually. I didn't say that. We'll see that. Bench one of Ndai, Kudus or Mateta? Yeah, good question. I mean, that's difficult. Probably Ndai. Start Elliot Anderson or Reinders? I would start Reinders, just about. Saka and Larson to Semenyo and Wood for a -4? Yes. That would be my answer. Yeah. I'm not using the free hit. I don't think so. I mean, United have the most appealing fixture, but they're one of the most unreliable teams at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not using the free hit. How could anyone think Kudus is a better long-term shout than Sarr? Well, Sarr has better underlying stats. I've said that before. But I think Kudus has the fixtures, and he will get a lot of assists for Tottenham this season. If he stays fit, I think he'll get double digits in fantasy assists, and he should get at least 5 Premier League goals, I think. So, yes, a difficult one. I like both of them, to be fair. Look, I'll be honest. I mean, a key reason for thinking of Kudus is kind of this sort of thinking, and I don't recommend it to anyone. I get points from Kudus or I jinx him. Either way, I'm kind of happy with the end result. But yeah, I think maybe thinking of it logically, with removing emotion from it, you could say I think Sarr is probably the sensible pick, but he's also a bit underrated in general. I'll be honest with Ismaila Sarr. He did kind of burn me last season. So whenever I kind of showed faith in him, he got me 1 return, I think, against Leicester, and he was very poor throughout. Enzo Captain, FPL-wise, I'd say no, but he has improved as a fantasy Premier League asset over the years. So yeah, I also recommended him in Club World Cup Fantasy, which is something I never thought I'd do. So there you go. I think Aït-Nouri will play. It's not a guarantee he'll start, though. He is in my predicted lineup. And of course, he was called up for Algeria. Pep Guardiola said he's fine. There's a reason why he's no longer yellow flagged. Let me actually check if he's gone down in price. Aït-Nouri. Hello? Yeah, he did go down in price, and he's no longer yellow flagged. And Harry Wilson, if I can check him as well. Yeah, Wilson is now yellow flagged. I'll see if I can update that as well just before we end this deadline stream. Barnes throws a pickle into things. I was very hot on him this week. Don't hate Sarr, Esteval, or Kudus as replacements, but not sure which one. I would say Ismaila Sarr out of the 3. And by the way, just for reference, I do prefer Sarr over Kudus for Game Week 3. Yeah, over the next, 3-4 game weeks, Kudus maybe has the edge because of the fixtures, but yeah, probably for Game Week 3 and long term, actually. Yeah, Sarr does look very nice. Bench Wirtz or Semenyo? Very close one. I'm going to say bench Semenyo. I know it sounds crazy. Based on the performances, it seems like madness, and Tottenham's defence is weaker than Arsenal's, in my opinion, but both of them have kept clean sheets in both matches so far this season. They're both top of the league, in the top 2 spots. I don't know. I have a funny feeling about Wirtz, and I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to say start Wirtz and bench Semenyo. Sarr or Semenyo? For Game Week 3, it's Ismaila Sarr. I'm joking, starting from the Club World Cup. Yeah, I know, but it's also a bit of banter, you know. And congratulations on winning it, you know. It's obviously something surprising, you could say, but you did the job. Start 2 of Gyökeres, Thiago, and Wirtz. I'm going to say Igor Thiago and Heart versus head. I mean, Gyökeres has shown more than Wirtz so far this season, but that's a tricky one. I'm going to say Wirtz. Only one transfer, so could not do anything that exotic. Nice description, nice adjective. Yeah, I get that. I'm also in a similar boat, but I would probably argue getting one of Kudus or Sarr and Chris Wood isn't too shabby. Play Guyu or Van Dijk. Yeah, Wei saying I covered your question earlier. I would go for Van Dijk. Defcon points are worth 2, and you can't get 4 or 6. So basically the way it works is any defender who gets 10 defensive actions, so clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles, they will gain 2 additional points from Defcon. So let's say, for example, Gabriel gets 20 defensive actions. You're not going to get 4 points from it. You are capped at 2. And for midfielders and forwards, you need to get 12 defensive actions to score 2 additional points. I'm on free hit. Which 2 do you think are the best out of Ndoye, Dango, Grealish, Gibbs-White, and Foden? Ndoye and Foden isn't a bad shout. He's got a great record against Brighton, but I'm going to say Dango or Ouattara. Palmer, Guyu to Wood and Sarr. If so, who to bench, Sarr, Kudus, or Watkins? I don't like benching any of them, mate. Probably Kudus. Yeah, I would buy Chris Wood and Sarr if you can. I like that. Milenkovic or Munoz this week? Milenkovic. Thank you to Luke. I appreciate the super chat. If you got any message, then just let me know in a normal chat and I'll see it. Thank you very much. Hey Dylan, 1.6. That's a pretty good start. I was actually much better last season. I think I was in, 200,000, 400,000. I just triple captain Haaland, I think, after Game Week 2. But look, it's really early days, and ultimately I had my worst ever season. Yeah, my last 2 campaigns have been a massive, dip from what I did beforehand. So, yeah, you can't judge too much from the start. And ultimately, I'm looking to, make some aggressive moves and fly up the rankings for Game Week 3. I think Arsenal will cause a lot of issues attacking-wise for Liverpool. Predicting 2 penalties for Gyökeres. Look, I'd be very surprised if Arsenal got a penalty at Anfield, let alone 2. Maybe you're right, and obviously Arsenal have been winning more penalties in pre-season, mainly thanks to Dalman, who also won one against Leeds, which was a bit soft, to be honest. Yeah, I think Gyökeres can cause problems to Liverpool, no doubt about it, and I think there will be vulnerabilities defensively, but just look at the potent attacking line as well. That could pin Arsenal back in certain parts of the game tomorrow. Bench one of Borro or O'Brien? I'd bench Jake O'Brien. Should I start Gakpo or Reinders? It's very close, but I'd probably start Gakpo. Adamak says, morning, would you bench Wirtz or Reinders to start Richarlison? I've already got Salah for Liverpool cover. Yeah, look, maybe I'm being pessimistic or whatever, but I just have a feeling about Wirtz. He's going to come good in the next 2 game weeks. It might even come against Arsenal tomorrow. It really could. Hopefully it's not the case, but it's a difficult one to bench one of those players. Reinders has the better fixture. I'm going to say start Reinders, but just about. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Yeah, on a free hit there, Toma, I would go for Sarr over Kudus. Vignesh says 2 free transfers, Palmer to Sarr and Gay to Wood, but I have to bench one among Rodgers and Sarr. Who to bench? Probably Rodgers. I'm not a big fan of that. And I also think both Watkins and Rodgers could actually benefit from the likes of Guesson and Marlon entering that starting lineup, which is possible. I think one of them will definitely start, and I think that will only bode well from an attacking perspective. Hey Dylan, captain Bruno, Salah or Wood? Well, Salah was ranked higher in my Camsey list. He was 2nd, Wood was 3rd, and Bruno 4th. Haaland is number 1. But I'll be honest, if I bag Chris Wood, I'll probably captain him. Dylan, when you free hit, do you lose a free transfer also for that game week? You don't lose a free transfer, no. You keep what you had from before. With Newcastle already signing Nick Waldemada, as well as Strand Larsen and Visser. Oh, I don't think Newcastle will sign all 3, no. They're only going to sign one of the other 2 you mentioned. I saw reports from Newcastle journalists saying that Strand Larsen won't be targeted now by Newcastle because Nick Waldemada has a similar profile. So I think Visser is more likely from the 2. But yeah, I think Isak will go to Liverpool. I think it's more likely now with that big summer signing, £69 million for Nick Waldemada. and I think they'll get one more. Why Kudus, not Johnson? I think long-term Kudus will start and Johnson will be in and out of the team, especially with the signing of Xavi Simons, which might directly impact Pape Mate Sarr instead, but I don't think Johnson will start as much as Kudus, to be honest with you. Buy Joao Pedro or Chris Wood? Very difficult to say. Chris Wood has better fixtures over the next 4, even though Arsenal away is very tough. The other 3 look really appealing. I'm going to say Chris Wood, but not by much. Mbuma or Cunha? Probably Cunha. Mateta or Wood long term? I'm going to say Chris Wood, but I like both of them. I couldn't get Wood because it was Palmer I had to sell, so it was Bruno or Semenyo. Don't trust United or their fixtures. Yeah, with Semenyo, I think Fernandes will do better than Semenyo this week. Long term, though, he offers better value than Bruno Fernandes. I need to sell Palmer, Saka and Gordon. Any perfect replacements? In this case, I'd probably say something like Fernandes, Semenyo, and one of Ismaila Sarr Kudus. I think that looks really enticing for you. Start Van Dijk. I'll have to bench either Rangers or Wirtz. I'd start the other 2 instead. I mean, there's definitely a case to start Van Dijk over Wirtz, but I'd go for Rangers and Florian Wirtz here. Well, I did cover my chip strategy before the season started, so that is still relevant now. With the bench boost, of course, I did recommend, looking at Game Week 1 and maybe free hitting in Game Week 2. But I'd probably suggest a Game Week 4 free hit for some people. So that could be another change from that video. As for the bench boost, it's whenever your squad looks really strong and your weakest players on your bench look quite decent with appealing fixtures, or they might be top quality players as well. With all due respect, attackers are too expensive. I agree. Thank you, Punjabi. Smash the like and subscribe button. Let's get the stream to 200 likes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we can get to that by the end of the stream. I've answered hundreds of questions, provided different graphics, and the full FPL coverage for Game Week 3, so you're well prepared for the upcoming deadline. Right now, we are on 110 likes. Let's get to 200 within the next hour. It would be greatly appreciated. And of course, we hit our Super Chat goal. You guys smashed it. So I'll be going live for even longer. The plan is to also have a reaction stream tonight. That is the plan. So a lot of people are recommending Kudus as a midfielder to replace Cole Palmer, and then using those funds to get Chris Wood up front. That is going to be my final dilemma now. So yeah, with Semenyo and Cole Palmer both changing in price overnight, I no longer can get Antoine Semenyo. But for Game Week 3 anyway, I was always more bullish on Kudus and Ismaila Sarr. One of those players will come in for me, and that is going to be the next big decision. So far this season, it's very close. Kudus has 13 points, Ismaila Sarr has 11, but the underlying stats would be in Sarr's favour. Let me actually show you using this website. So instead of comparing Semenyo and Kudus, I'm now going to compare Ismaila Sarr with the Ghanaian. Jesus Christ. Here you go. Well, to be fair, with the shots anyway, Ismaila Sarr, only one shot on target. The XG is higher than Kudus still at 0.55, one big chance, and one key pass. So if you actually look at this, Kudus does have the edge. He actually has the edge from an underlying numbers perspective, but Sarr obviously had those stats from last season. He heavily underperformed on his XG and the big chances, and of course he scored in that final against Liverpool in the Community Shield and against Forest in Game Week 2. So yeah, that's maybe a little curveball for you, but I'm still very bullish on Sarr against Villa, who will be without Onana and Kamara, 2 of their key defensive midfielders. And for those that aren't aware, something to potentially think about, NUFC Will reports that Barnes is out, it seems. He's got an X next to his name. We'll see how reliable that is. Take it with a pinch of salt, but it might cause you to rethink your strategy on a free hit or some of your Palmer replacements. Maybe you wanted Harvey Barnes in the midfield, but I think long-term, Ismaila Sarr, Kudus and Semenyo would be better picks anyway. But after showing you the stats for Sarr and Kudus, has that changed your opinion maybe for those that wanted Ismaila Sarr instead? Let me know in the live chat. Let's continue the conversation, and we'll be locking in our teams very soon. An FPL challenge will be discussed later on in this stream after the culmination of this deadline. But for now, I'll be focusing on Fantasy Premier League. Thank you, Sydney, for becoming a differential. Massively appreciated. To any new member or patron, you'll get early access to my videos and many other perks like priority reply to comments. So make sure to use that to your full advantage. Yes, Awale, 25 minutes left. Don't worry, I will be making transfers before that happens. Might punt Elanga over Barnes this week now. With the news, he's got decent underlying numbers. And versus Leeds, he could bag his first Newcastle goal. Yeah, I think that's definitely viable. If Barnes was fully fit and available, he would still be my preference, but that's because of his record against Leeds over the years. Who would you transfer out for Palmer and Guiu if you're free hitting in Game Week 6? Oh, in Game Week 6? I haven't really thought about that, to be honest. If anything, Game Week 4 might be an option for me, especially after buying Chris Wood, facing Arsenal away that week. That could definitely work for me, but yeah, for Game Week 6, that's an interesting one. Yeah, Ismail Assar might be one. He faces Liverpool that week, and whilst he has scored against them even this season, you might want to avoid him on a free hit in Game Week 6. So I'd say Ismail Assar could be one. And then, yeah, Chris Wood could be another one. Or even Mateta, but doubling up on Palace's attack does seem a little bit too risky. And I do think Palace might struggle a little bit at times without Eze there. Obviously, they scored 1 goal against Forest. They had a goalless draw in the Europa Conference League qualifier, and they got a 1-0 win in the first leg where Mateta scored the only goal there. So, yeah, I'm also looking at it and thinking, yeah, I think Palace, while Sarr is a good option and Mateta as well, I wouldn't double up on their attack. Semenyo or Sarr? The Game Week 3, it's Sarr. Long-term, Semenyo. I'm not trying to sit on the fence with that answer. I get if some people think that way. If I'm buying one, looking longer term, not looking to wildcard anytime soon, I'm going to say Semenyo. As a Chelsea fan, Esteval's goal and assist I can see. A bit more biased on that one. Yeah, Esteval was someone I predicted to start in Game Week 2, and that only happened because Palmer got injured, to be honest. But yeah, he was someone I looked at in pre-season and thought, if Gittins doesn't hit the ground running, I could see Esteval starting and then Neto being pushed to the left. We've seen that happen now. And when Palmer's back, yeah, I think Esteval could still remain in that team, and then you see Delap make way for Joao Pedro. Everyone should do a like for Dylan. I think he deserves it. Thank you very much, Adam Fine. Very kind of you, and good luck for Game Week 3. I'm thinking of Elanga and Mateta, so not to double up on Palace's attack. Yeah, I get that. And I do like Elanga for the next 2 game weeks, but I'll be honest, I think longer term, I prefer Semenyo, Kudus, and also Ismail Assar. Is Gusto playing in my predicted lineup? I don't think so. And obviously we saw James start in Game Week 1, then Gusto in Game Week 2. I think a lot of it might depend on the opponents and how Maresca wants to set up tactically. In certain games, we could see both of them start, like we saw against PSG back in the Club World Cup. But yeah, I think it's going to be James. That's my current prediction. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, it would be a bit of a shame because I think Chelsea keep a clean sheet this week. Hi Dylan, would you bring Wood for a -4 or keep the funds from Palmer to bring Isak next game week? I'd bring in Chris Wood for a -4. There's no guarantee that Isak even hits the ground running, albeit if he does join Liverpool and faces Burnley away, yeah, that looks amazing. But let's wait and see first. We don't know that for sure yet. Dylan, you don't trust United this week? I'm considering all of them, mate. And also Fernandes was 4th in my captaincy list. Cunha was 6th. Mbumo not so long ago was also in the top 10. But I think United will win 1 or 2-0. And long term, I still don't like their fixtures over the next 3. And they still need to click in that attack. So could they do well against Burnley? Absolutely. But I don't have that much confidence in them. And my priority is to buy Chris Wood and captain him against West Ham. So that's why I'm leaning towards that transfer plan instead right now. But look, Fernandes absolutely fine. Am I completely ruling out buying him for Palmer? Not really. You can also see that in the poll, by the way. And that is winning now. Fernandes and also starting Reinders, 35% of the votes there. Maybe that's the way to go. We'll see. Ultimately, if you're looking at all those transfer plans, I don't think I'll go for Semenyo and Mateta for a -4. I agree with the people. That is the least likely for me from my final transfer plans. Sarr and Wood is definitely under consideration. The same goes for Kudus and Wood for a -4. So that is basically what it comes down to. -4 here or free transfer. And that's what I'll decide in the next 19 minutes. Watkins to Wood and captain him. Yeah, I'm not doing that personally. I would recommend keeping Watkins still, despite the frustrations from the first 2 game weeks. Yeah, Paredes, someone asked me about Enzo Fernandez captain, and I said no. As an overall FPL asset, I think he's okay, but at the same price, I prefer Kudus, Semenyo, and Sarr. And to be honest, I think Caicedo might score more FPL points this season because of DEFCON, but that is certainly a hot take, and Enzo Fernandez will get more attacking returns than Moises Caicedo. Yeah, exactly that, Twister Parky. Really good to mention that Semenyo has never scored or assisted against Tottenham. That could change, of course, this weekend, but in certain scenarios, I've talked about benching Semenyo compared to Reinders, Kudus, and these other options. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, I've never been that bullish on Semenyo for Game Week 3. It's more of a long-term purchase, and I can't buy him now alongside Chris Wood for a -4. Pedro, Salah, or Kudus captain? From those 3, it would be Salah. Joao Pedro isn't too far behind, though. I have Gakpo and Anderson. Who would you start? Gakpo. Joao Pedro is 5th in my CAMC list. I'll go for it one more time very soon. Bench boost with Dubravka, Reinders, Estevan, Gabriel. It's not a bad bench. I also like Reinders a lot, but I think the rest of your bench will blank. I have at least 7 players who I need to transfer out this week, either due to injuries or awful performances. Well, the problem is you probably want to get these players out in Game Week 4 as well, right? Maybe Palmer's an exception because he could be available for that week. I think the free hit looks slightly more appealing in Game Week 4 compared to 3. That is the way I feel, but it is also team dependent. Yeah. I think maybe you have 5-6 issues to deal with in Game Week 4. Maybe it goes down to 4 if you make a transfer, take a -4 hit. But yeah, it's a good question. Oh, fuck. What the... What the hell? Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. The blood clot is happening with this thing. Am I still live? Yeah, I am. Yeah, apologies about that, because I'm basically controlling my screen with another application. What the hell happened there? Yeah, this update, I'll explain it later, obviously, because we've got a deadline to talk about, but thankfully I'm still live. Thank the gods. But what the blood clot is wrong with this operating system? Anyway, I'll talk about that later. Jesus, that gave me a heart attack. Well, yeah, let's not joke about heart attacks. Okay, blood clot, blood fire, whatever you want a blood clot say. That's okay, easy. Okay. Apologies for that, ladies and gents. Yeah. Technology, eh? Tech bloody knowledge. Okay, so we are back and live, or we never went, but yeah, for some reason the screen sharing thing I was doing just cut out. I thought the whole stream was gone. That's probably a sign I need to make my transfers, otherwise I will forget. But in this question, I would say probably wildcard. But I don't know your team, which makes it difficult to answer it definitively. So yeah, I'm going to make my transfers now. Apologies, I don't know why that's not working properly. Let me just unselect that. Alright, there we go. Bloody technology. Okay, so it looks like more of you are leaning towards Fernandez and starting Reinders instead of buying Kudus and Wood for a -4. Yeah, I mean, that was my original plan in my team selection. Yeah, Punjabi, yeah. Well, at least you bloody scared us, Dylan. Sorry, I scared myself. Well, the laptop, the computer scared me. I don't know what happened. I think the update caused some issues there, but I'll talk about that soon. Aranya says Watkins and Palmer to Haaland and Ndoye as a differential move of Aguiu, and Palmer to Wood and Kudus. I've got Rodgers and Reinders, not keen on double Villa attack. I like those transfers, to be honest. I really do. I like Watkins, but that is an upgrade as a duo, and Ndoye looks really appealing as a differential. Ooh. I have to say, though, I still prefer Chris Wood and Kudus, I think. Do I? Do I? I've got Rangers and... Rangers? Power Rangers, no. Rodgers and Reinders. Jesus. Yeah, I'm going to say... Yeah, Haaland and Ndoye. Yeah, it looks really good. What's up, UK Dylan? Yeah, it's based. I'll explain it after, but yeah, updates caused some issues with the USBs and everything kind of crashed for me in this moment, and I lost control. I didn't even see if the stream was still live, basically. Kill says, thank you, Dylan, and good luck this week. Likewise to you. Yes, it is crunch time now. We've got to lock in our teams, otherwise it's all over. So do everything you need to. Captain the player you want to. Set your starting 11 in order. Don't leave anything to the last few minutes just in case. And I keep getting signed out of the website, which could happen in the next few minutes as well. Sarr or Ndoye differential captain this week? I'm going to say Sarr still. He is 7th in my Camsey list. Ndoye is 9th. I like both of them, to be honest. I am not keen on wildcards before transfer deadline. Yeah, I get that. And also wildcarding in an international break is also more appealing. Like I said to that person, I'm not sure what their squad is, which makes it difficult to answer. And maybe with... what, 3 transfers or a -4 hit, and also Palmer returning in Game Week 4, he could have only 3 or 4 issues to deal with by that stage, but I don't know the team, so it's difficult to say. Rodgers or Wirtz to start? Very difficult. I'm going to say Rodgers, only just though. Watkins to Joao Pedro or Roll? Roll. Ndoye or Reinders? Probably Ndoye. Not by much though. Start Anderson or Reinders? Reinders. And I did answer this before, by the way. Maybe to somebody else, though. Okay, I'm going to make my transfer. I really want to get Chris Wood this week, I have to say. I hope that doesn't backfire if I don't go for him. But yeah. I am facing someone in head-to-head who does have Kudus and Chris Wood, actually. So yeah. Am I mad for even considering Bruno Fernandes? Maybe I am. Maybe I am. Let me know in the live chat. Say yes, no, you're crazy, well done. I don't know. Just say what you think in the live chat. Start Anderson or Dewsbury Hall. I have Wood and Milenkovic starting. I would start Dewsbury Hall. Dylan, who the blood clot is going to haul today? Blood clot. Let's see. Well, I think my Camsey list will give you my predictions for that. So for Game Week 3 today, I'm going to say Bruno Fernandes, Joao Pedro. Yeah, I think Kudus. Elanga. Dango Ouattara. And then who knows. But yeah, those are the options from today that I think will do fairly well. We'll see how many are correct and how many are Hello again, Dylan. Bruno Fernandes and Wood in for Palmer and Watkins on a -4 with Bruno as captain. Yeah, look, I like that. My only concern is selling Watkins, and Palmer will be available by Game Week 4 or 5. But yeah, I like both of those transfers in. I'd probably captain Chris Wood over Bruno Fernandes, though. Yeah, it looks like it, Terry. So I think Hwang Hee-chan will start. I did show the source earlier. I think it's a reliable journalist that covers Wolves, and then a Wolves fan page posted it. So it looks like Strand Larsen isn't with the squad. Start Gakpo or Reinders. Probably Gakpo for me. What? Same guy reports Elanga out too. What? What is happening at Newcastle? Gordon suspended. Potentially Barnes and Elanga are out. So it's going to be Jacob Murphy on the right. Asula up front. What the hell is happening? Let's see. Let's see. Ndoye or Gibbs-White? Ndoye. Mateta or Wood? Chris Wood. Van der Ven, Nico Williams and Konsa. Start 1. I'm going to say Konsa. Konsa? No, what am I saying? Sorry. Nico Williams. I had a brain fart there. Reinders or Kudus? Kudus. Hi Dylan, do I sub in Rogers for Ndai or Reinders? Well, I'm probably going to bench Reinders. That's something else I need to think about if I make my moves and take a -4 hit. But yeah, it's a good question. I'm going to say for Reinders at the moment. Porro or Anderson to start? Porro. Who to captain? From those players, it's still going to be Salah for me. I would be tempted by Bruno or Chris Wood if I bring them in. I'm not going to lie to you. They would definitely be higher ranked than Mateta and Watkins, that's for sure. I wouldn't go for them as the captain compared to Salah and Bruno. Drigger says L. Yeah, fair enough. Start Matoma or Sa? Yeah, Sa. Bruno or Cunha captain? Bruno for me. Bastard Dylan. Yeah, I'm trying. Bloody Newcastle this week. Yeah, I'm going to update my predicted lineup. Yeah, I think Richarlison will start. I think he will. Yeah, Chris with 8 goals and 1 assist in 14 games versus Worst Ham. Yeah. I saw that record before. I saw that record. I'm just checking Twitter now and seeing if I can see that update. And I think you are correct, actually. So weird. What is happening right now? Yeah, you are correct. I might bring it up on screen as well. That is... Wow, that's crazy. Porro or Livramento? Porro. Semenyo or Grealish? Look, long-term, go for Semenyo all day long. This week, I would consider Grealish. I think Semenyo blanks personally against Tottenham. Bench Rogers or Reinders? I'd bench Reinders, to be honest. We'll see what the other people think as well. Well, best Newcastle midfielder. Who's left? Is it Tonali? Is he going to start? I think he will, but... Well, if the rumours are true and both Barnes and Elanga are out, we are in serious trouble. Yeah, sorry, mate. You're spamming the chat and I answered your question. I don't know what you're doing there, mate. Yeah. Maybe you need triple, quadruple confirmation or something, or reassurance, but yeah, hopefully one of the moderators can sort that out, because for some reason I can't time them out, but I appreciate it. Bench Verts or Sar? I'd bench Verts. I would start 8 Nuri. Adnan says Verts, Sar, Reinders bench 1, or get in Boomer or Cunha instead of Sar. Yeah, good question. Yeah, I'd probably just bench Verts from those 3, which is definitely a bit risky. Hudson-Odoi and Cunha or Sar, Kudus and Gibbs-White on a free hit and already have Bruno. Yeah, Hudson-Odoi isn't too bad this week. I don't mind him, but long-term, I would rather go for the other option. I'll be honest, though. I think Sar and Kudus is what I'd recommend. Sell Sanchez for sells? No. Captain Bruno or Haaland? Haaland is top for me. If I had him, I'd captain him. Bruno is around 4th in my list. Yo Dylan is a triple threat of Mbumo, Bruno, and Cunha. Madness or genius? I wouldn't recommend a triple up in United midfield. I think 2 is already enough. Captain Salah or Wood? I put Salah higher in my rankings just because of the player and what he's done in the past against Big 6 clubs, but if I buy Chris Wood in, he'll be my captain. So that answers your question. Cherky is out as well. There's a lot to keep up with. I'll try to update these graphics for the lineups after the deadline is done. So there could be a few changes to that. Newcastle starting 11 and, well, Man City, Cherky wasn't in my predicted 11 anyway. I think Foden and Doku will start on the wings, but we'll see how that ages as well. But yeah, a lot is going on right now. I'm probably going to make these transfers here. So Chris Wood and then one of Kudus or Sar will come in. Sar really burnt me last season. He really did. I like his ownership. It does look really appealing, and he's got some nice fixtures there. Obviously, Liverpool at home doesn't look great. Villa away is not easy, but he does have a great record against them. Let's see if he continues that this time round. I think it's probably time to go a little bit different. I am going to go for Chris Wood, and then one of these options, Kudus or Ismail Assar. That's what it comes down to now. And then I'll be benching one of Ndai or Reinders before this deadline closes. I really hope I don't regret not going for Bruno Fernandes, but we'll see what happens. I mean, that is the top voted option, actually. Kudus is second, and Sar is third with only 20% of the votes, but I am leaning towards that at the moment. Yeah, I'd bench Verts, as I said before, Ahmed. Um, I don't like either one of them, to be fair, but Guillou obviously scored in the Carabao Cup. I'm going to say probably go for Guillou. I'm a risk Barnes starting if he's out, Esteval to come on. Yeah, that's decent cover. You could also have Dango Ouattara if you wanted, but yeah, you're a Chelsea fan, and Esteval's been very impressive, so I don't really blame you. Okay, so it's time to lock things in. Sa. Great record against Villa. Am I going to make the same mistake as last week of Watkins? I think I'm overthinking this, to be fair, but yeah. I'm going to go for Ismaila Sarr, I think. Go for something a little bit differential, and I've got 0.7 million left in the bank. Oh yeah. Maybe these transfers will be active for Game Week 3. Yeah, okay. I actually didn't know that it's now red when you do that. So yeah, Ismaila Sarr and Chris Wood are in. And now, do I bench Reinders or Ndai? That is the final piece of the jigsaw. So let's just make sure this is set up. Chris Wood as my captain, and Salah is my vice. Horace, please don't let me down. I'm captaining another striker, just like last week. I really hope that doesn't go tits up. And I hope Bruno Fernandes blanks, but yeah, I'm asking for a lot there. So this is my provisional team. It's what I discussed a lot in my team selection towards the end. I was leaning towards this hit, but Ismaila Sarr is the difference now over Kudus and Semenyo. Let's end this poll. Thank you to those that voted. I'm going to do one quick one, see if I got enough time. So just start one. Yeah, don't bench Reinders. Let's put in Ndai and Reinders. I actually am thinking of benching Ndai now, I'll be honest. Bench Mateta or Johnson? Yeah, great question. I'm in two minds about this one. I'm probably going to say bench Johnson. Yeah, that's true, Paredes. I mean, I think Brighton will be difficult. I really think that. But then again, I think Wolves are going to be in the bottom 5 this season. They conceded twice in midweek against West Ham. Obviously, a 1-0 loss against Bournemouth isn't that bad. And obviously, they had 10 men for the second half. That's the problem with the -4 hit, obviously, that I now have this benching dilemma. But there you go. Nah, Kudus. Well, it's done. I've gone for something a bit more differential. Yeah, Wood Captain is certainly bold, that's for sure. This is 50-50. Look at that. Reinders and Ndai. Ip Dip do the Cat's got the Fooder. Yeah, who even knows at this point? Ndai. He is a nice differential, but I think I'm going to go for Reinders just before the deadline closes. I mean, this is probably going to go tits up. Basically, the opposite is going to be the best way to go. I hope Ndai doesn't haul on my bench, but there you go. Reinders is starting, and that is my final team. Chris Wood is my captain. I've gone for something a little bit different with Ismaila Sarr being brought in and Chris Wood captain. I've just got a good feeling about it. They've got great records against their upcoming opponents. Then again, so did Ollie Watkins, as we all know. Let me show you the updates that I discussed earlier. So one of them is obviously by NUFC Will. So Harvey Barnes is apparently out. And the same goes for his teammate Anthony Elanga. What is happening with Newcastle? Well, that is incredible if that's both of happening there. Yeah, I mean, wow. I don't know what else to say about that. There was the update, yeah, here from Talking Wolves. So they relayed the information by Liam Keane. So Strand Larsen is not with the squad in the hotel tonight and is expected to miss tomorrow's game against Everton due to injury. So yeah, we'll see how that pans out. Hopefully benching and Ndai doesn't go tits up. But yeah, I'm just kind of fearing the worst at this point. Good luck, guys. Let's have a fun Game Week 3. Likewise to you. Well, too late benching Mateta, I guess. Yeah, that's why I recommend, doing things earlier. Obviously, I left it a little bit late because there were a lot of different avenues for me this week, even with just one free transfer. Yep, the app is updating. Yep, we are locked in. No 5-10 minutes extra as we saw in Game Week 1. Thank you, Lager, for the super chat and a nice little emoji, sticker, gif. I've never seen that before. Thank you very much. Good luck. Have fun. Okay, I managed to understand that acronym. Hi, Dylan. Good to see you started great. I mean, that's debatable. I don't think my rank is particularly great, but I'm not really that focused on it now. I was in a much better position last season and the year before, but I had my 2 worst seasons. So yeah, it doesn't really mean too much in the grand scheme of things. What I'm going to do now is go to FPL Challenge, and in the meantime, I'm going to make some modifications to the predicted lineups, but that's based on the things that I've seen now of Alanga and Harvey Barnes reportedly missing out. I'm not sure what is going on there, but it's safe to say Murphy should start. I'm not sure who's going to be on the other flank, though. So let's see what happens there. And by the way, for those that were probably wondering what happened earlier, like 15 minutes before the deadline, when I thought the stream crashed, for some reason, because I'm using a laptop to control the Mac Mini, that's what I'm doing. For some reason, everything disconnected, and it made me think that either the Mac Mini restarted, because even my Stream Deck also powered off. I had no control. I didn't even see what was going on with that program as well, with my computer that's running, you know, the software and going live. I thought everything just crashed, and I would have to restart it, basically. But thankfully, that wasn't the case. But I had a feeling something could happen, because I've heard bad things about the software updates for Mac recently, where it causes issues with the USB connectivity and stuff like that. I didn't want to update. For some reason, Mac just updated automatically when it was sleeping throughout the night. So, yeah, that's yeah. People were probably thinking, "What the hell are you on about? Just talk about FPL." Just for those that are interested or even know anything about the Mac, yeah, that is what happened. But thankfully, it didn't cause any issues, and we're still live. I made my transfers. Maybe that'll be a curse rather than a blessing. So yeah, for Newcastle fans in the chat, who do you think will start now if Alanga and, I'm using kind of who's missing out, Barnes, if both of them are out, it will be Murphy, Asula, and who? I'm actually struggling at this point. Thank you, Wei, saying good luck to you as well. Yeah, I think the lap will start. I'll show you my predicted lineups very soon, but I'm just trying to have a few tinkerings of the Newcastle lineup now. I put Salah above Bruno, so I'd say logically Salah is the better pick. He is facing a much better defense. And look, I might regret not buying Bruno this week for free, especially if Ndai also does well on my bench. Yeah, I know, Sudnika, I know. He has gotten some things right in the past, but he's not always correct. Good luck, guys. Let's have a fun Gameweek 3. Likewise, mate. I just benched Ndai for Reinders. Well, maybe you've done the right thing. Who knows? Only time will tell. Reinders can help with the points from Haaland. Yes, but it also depends on the role he's playing. Hopefully it's a more advanced one and he can box crash like he did against Wolves. Captain Salah or Joao Pedro. Salah for me. All the best for the FPL players for Gameweek 3. Thank you, Awale, and I appreciate you moderating the chat as always. Oh yeah, there was one guy who was spamming, but I wasn't able to deal with it, but I answered this question anyway. Yes, City win. I think they will too. I see Brighton versus City 2-1 or 3-1 for either team. I get that. And Brighton obviously did very well against City last season. Captain Wood or Haaland? Haaland for me. I'm playing both, says Ryan, in reference to Ndai and Reinders. And Reinders is actually losing the vote. I was on Ndai all week, but late change. We'll see if it goes well for me. Bench Murphy or Xhaka? I'd bench Xhaka. Obviously, the deadline is gone, but hopefully you were able to make your changes in time. And obviously, thank you to Sanika once again. Rodgers or Dewsbury Hall? Rodgers. Didn't Wolves just permanently sign Larson this window? Yes, but it might just be an injury. And as I mentioned before, I don't think Newcastle will sign him now because several reports indicate that Newcastle see him as a similar profile to Nick Woltemade, who they signed for 69 million from Stuttgart. So I think Newcastle will go for Visser and Strand Larson will stay at Wolves for now, or just go elsewhere. But yeah, it's very rare to see someone join a club permanently in a summer transfer window and then leave. But I think Demichelis is an example, Atletico Madrid, but that was many years ago. Good luck, Dylan, and everyone. Likewise, LFC. Maybe not to your club, but good luck to you. Bought in Murphy from the bench for Fulkrug. Yeah, I like that. Jacob Murphy could be a nice differential against Leeds. My second team, transfer out Mitoma to Dan Ndoye. I like Ndoye a lot, but yeah, if Chris Wood blanks, as you're saying, hopefully Ndoye does too. Adnan says, I endured a lot from Wirtz and now I benched him. Like I said, I don't know why. I just think we could see the roles reverse a little bit. in this game against Arsenal, and I think Wirtz could do really well. But yeah, for those that still have Wirtz, I mean, if you keep him against Arsenal, he blanks, then would you sell him against Burnley away? I'm not sure that's the way to go about it. But look, his price has gone down. He's been quite underwhelming, and Gakpo has been the standout so far in that Liverpool attack. Fingers crossed, 100+ week for all. Yeah, unfortunately, that won't be the case, but to everyone watching, I hope you do well and get a green arrow to end, well, the first 3 game weeks of the season in a strong way and go into an international break with a green arrow. That is the aim. So with my FPL squad or FPL challenge, I am looking to change this a little bit. So I'll probably get rid of Chris Wood just to, you know, not jinx myself completely. I'm going to add another defender. And yeah, let's get rid of Sarr since he's in my FPL team. Let's have a bit of different coverage here. So I'm going to go for Tarkowski for the Defcon. Yeah, the other one's going to be tough, I think. This is going to be very tough. This is where my issue lies in terms of finding that other defender who can get Defcon. Maybe Collins, but against Sunderland, is that really going to be the case? I mean, maybe. He was incredible for that last season. I think Lacroix could be exceptional for Defcon this week against Aston Villa. So yeah, that's something else I'm looking at. Munoz isn't too shabby. I might go for something a little bit left field there. So yeah, even a Forest defender isn't too bad. Then I can go for Sells in goal. Oh yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm going to go for Collins and kind of hope he gets Defcon, but it's not a guarantee. Yeah, I mean, I could still go for Chris Wood here, right? And then have something like this. I'd have no Chelsea player if I also get rid of Sanchez. I would probably captain Fernandes just because he can also get Defcon. Oh yeah, idiot, you can't go for Sells and Wood. Sells and Joao Pedro, Sanchez and Chris Wood. That's a difficult one. I'll probably stick with Sanchez. Yeah, so probably do something like that. So that is my updated FPL challenge team. And before I had Ismaila Sarr instead of Collins. So that's the change I've made. So yeah, just for those that aren't aware, for FPL challenge, if any of your players score defensive contribution points, instead of +2, they will score +10. Hence the focus on defenders and those with Defcon potential. Good luck, Dylan. Decided to sell Guiu and Palmer to Wood and Sarr. Yeah, just like me. Hopefully it goes well for us. Captain Haaland plus decided to bench Dewsbury Hall and not buy Kudus because not quite sure on the free hit in Game Week 4 yet. Yeah, I'm leaving that open and I'll think about it over the international break. I'll probably make a free hit video as well. Stay tuned, of course, for UCL Fantasy. I'll probably produce a draft in the next couple of days. And yeah, transfer tips, best wildcard team, my team selection, transfer plans, that's all headed your way. There's a lot of videos to look forward to, even though we have a little bit of a break in FPL. Who would be the Defcon consideration for challenge? Yeah, Tarkowski, Collins, Lacroix. I think an Arsenal or Liverpool defender like Van Dijk, Gabriel, Saliba could also be in the mix. Probably more so Saliba than Gabriel, but that isn't really a guarantee. Yeah, I don't think a United defender would fit the bill. De Ligt is the most likely, but surely United will control possession against Burnley at home. Yeah, Van Dijk is a good shout, I think, in FPL Challenge, and also, let's jinx the guy. Thank you very much, Adam Fine. Very kind of you. Best FPL content, Dylan. Appreciate you. Hopefully you tune in for the next few streams and videos, but thank you very much for the kind words and all the best for Game Week 3. The new signings, so something, young South Korean lad, looked good pre-season apparently. Oh yes, you are right. Yeah, I remember they signed him. Yeah, that could be the way they go, but from a front line of Gordon, Murphy, Elanga, or Barnes instead of Murphy, I mean, that's a massive downgrade there. They need more depth, of course, and Nick Waldemada was definitely necessary, but he won't start this weekend, of course. Remembered JP has the early kickoff last second, changed to Kudus captain after selling Palmer. Wow, I'm excited. Kudus captain is interesting. He's got a good record against Bournemouth. He has never scored against them, but 2 assists in 3 games, and I think he will get something there. I might regret not going for him. Of course, I went for Ismaila Sarr in the end, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Dango or Rodgers, please. For Game Week 3, it would be Dango, but it's very close. Did Palmer and Aït-Nouri drop in price? Yes. 8 Nuri is 6 million. Palmer is 10.4. Kusanagi says, missed the deadline. I activated the free hit chip, made only one free transfer because I got busy. Do you think my season is over? Well, no, it's not over. And remember, you do have 2 free hits, one for each half of the season, and for every single chip is the same thing. But yeah, it's far from ideal. I'm not going to lie to you, but the season isn't over. Defensive contributions are worth 10 points on challenge. Yes. Walter Messi is a baller, to be fair. Keen to see how he does in the Prem. Yeah, he did very well in the under-21 Euro tournament, so yeah, he could be a great signing, but 69 million is obviously a lot of money. It might take him a while to bed in. I captained Joao Pedro over Salah. Early kickoff. Be careful. Also went Wood captain. Let's hope it pays off. I really hope so. I was burnt by Watkins last week. Let's see if Wood does the same thing this time round. Yes, Matthias, I covered it. Both Elanga and Barnes might be out. I'm not sure what's happening there. I'll talk about this in the Use Your Fantasy videos, but yeah, the draw was quite interesting. I think it's quite balanced for most teams. Obviously, there will be some exceptions to that, but yeah, some great matchups on paper. We'll see how it goes, but I think Bayern have a especially tough start over the first 4 match days. Yeah, Lacroix, I agree. Downburn isn't too shabby. I think Newcastle will concede. I'm quite concerned about them in terms of their front line being completely decimated. But speaking of which, let me make the changes. I might need to... I'm not even sure what Newcastle are going to do here. I mean, they could play Jacob Ramsey as the left winger, actually. I think they'll do that. And then put Lewis Miley in the midfield alongside Tonali, assuming that Tonali is available, of course. So I'm going to go for that. I don't think they'll start the South Korean player just yet. Maybe I'm wrong. So that will be my alterations to the Newcastle lineup, and we'll see how that ages. So just give me a second whilst I get this rolling. So there we go, Ramsey on the left. And then we'll put Lewis Miley in the midfield. And I think he's 4.5 million. So yeah, bear in mind that some of these, obviously, we saw some price changes overnight and stuff like that. Let's see if I can get Miley as well quickly. And for those that aren't aware, we probably will go live later tonight for the reaction stream. Stay tuned for that. If anything changes, I'll let you know. But yeah, that is the plan. Tomorrow I'll be out all day watching the games. And yeah, on Monday, hopefully we can get some more content out for you. But if not, just expect it throughout the week. But yeah, I will be... Oh, what is this bullshit? All right, man. All right. Yeah, let's put Miley in there. Okay. We can close these. Okay, so right now we do have 162 likes. Let's get to 200. It would be greatly appreciated. There are still a decent number of you in the chat, and I do appreciate it. So yeah, let's get to 200 likes. And we are closing in on 35,000 subscribers. I suspect we will get to that in the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much for all your support. And after that, it's the next goal. One at a time, but it's all thanks to your subscriptions, likes, comments, and all that good stuff. All right, that will be my final Newcastle predicted 11, I believe. But that's with the assumption that NUFC Will isn't trolling or whatever it is. Let me just quickly alternate the yellow flag. So if we go to Fulham, Harry Wilson should be yellow flag now. See if I can get that as well quickly. But yeah, these lineups, you know, having all the information and stuff like that, it can be difficult to keep track of if you look at how things change so quickly. I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, you get these kind of late injuries and stuff like that. It is what it is. But let me put this in here. Wilson, yellow flagged. And let's remove the yellow flag from Aït-Nouri. He is now available. I think that should be fine. Yeah, okay. Okay, so very soon I'm going to show you my updated lineups. and this will be my final predictions, and then we can see how I did. But yeah, in terms of future predicted lineups podcasts, it will be difficult to maintain throughout the season, to be honest. I will try my best. Obviously, the ones who are watching it are loving the content so far, but yeah, trust me, it's a lot of research, and also things change so quickly in such a volatile environment like FPL and the Premier League. So I'm going to change that now. Hwang Hee-chan, of course, starting up front over Strand Larsen. That's something I also talked about earlier, and the graphics were updated already. So yeah, we'll find out the lineups soon for Chelsea, and actually the lineups are out, aren't they? So yeah, I'll go through them now, and I'll see how wrong or right I was about them. So we'll start off with Chelsea, and then we'll go to Fulham. But yeah, I literally just updated the Fulham one with the Wilson one. But yeah, who cares at this point? So let's put up Chelsea first. And yeah, Gusto is starting for someone who asked about him earlier, and I didn't think he'd start, so that's already one wrong. And let's see with Fulham. Okay. So with Chelsea, Sanchez in goal, Gusto, Chalobah, Tosin, Cucurella, Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Esteval, João Pedro, Neto, Delap. Okay, that's quite interesting. The way they kind of put it, it looks like a 3-3-4. It won't exactly be like that, but basically the one I got wrong was Reece James. I got the rest spot on, but yeah, it's Gusto starting over Reece James once again. And let's go to Fulham now, and let's see if we got a full house. No, we don't. Do we? Yeah, because Castagna starts. So Leno, Castagna, Tete, Anderson, Bassi, Sessegnon, Sandenberg, Lukic, King, Iwobi, Muniz. So the one I got incorrect was Castagna. Instead of him, I put Harry Wilson, who is on the bench. It's not a serious injury, but he doesn't start for Fulham. So yeah, with both Fulham and Chelsea, I got 10 out of 11. So yeah, not too shabby, I think. I mean, I'll take that. I think Fulham were one of the worst ones I've predicted so far, so I'll add that to my score. So that's, yeah, 28 out of 33 so far for Fulham. And for Chelsea, it's 29 out of 33. So I'm going to show you now what I've done. And yeah, I'm not going to change anything else, so you'll see. I'm not going to pull the rug, so to speak. So yeah, you'll see my lineups now. My predictions for them anyway. What do you think of the lineups in the live chat? Let me know. And yeah, very interesting changes there so far. I think Fulham have been very difficult to anticipate. Vandenberg for Defcon. Yeah, he's actually even better than Collins, arguably. This season anyway. Top 3 teams have the toughest draw, and top 3 teams have the easiest draw. I'm not sure what you mean by that, because you basically said the top 3 teams have the toughest and the easiest draws. Romero or Lacroix? For challenge, I would say Lacroix. I think he's more likely to get Defcon. So I've got Salah captain, just could not decide between him and Bruno. Yeah, that's fair. And that's another possible regret of mine. Not only avoiding the Bruno transfer for free, but also not captaining Salah. Crystal Clean says Arsenal will be champions. I hope so. It's about bloody time. Which club got the best away fixtures atmosphere-wise in the Champions League? I think Olympiacos is one of the best. I remember when Arsenal played against them over the years. Unbelievable atmosphere, non-stop singing. Yeah, I think those atmospheres in Serbia, Greece would be up there in Europe amongst the best. Yeah, Marseille's pretty intense, and yeah, Istanbul's another great one to highlight. It's a shame Fenerbahce aren't in the Champions League now, but I think Galatasaray will be a very good one. Chelsea got a rough draw, but keen for the big games. Good experience for the young squad. Yeah, and to be honest, Chelsea are very good in Europe. I think they'll still be able to qualify for the next round, even if it's through the playoffs. I wouldn't be too concerned. I actually think all the Premier League clubs will go through, but that's just my current prediction. Not in the top 8 automatic spots. I think only 2, maybe 3 of them will, but I think all 5 will go through to the round of 16. What a story for Kaira Almaty. Play from round 1 to league phase and debut first time. Yes, and Arsenal will be facing them, so that'll be fun. Harrison James says, or Senesi. Yeah, that's a good shout. I think Spurs will score 2 or 3 goals, but yeah, Defcon is what it's all about for FPL Challenge this week. Harry Maguire, I'm not sure if he starts. I mean, he played very well. To be honest, he has been very consistent for United in the past year or two. But yeah, I still think it'll be Euro, De Ligt, and Shaw. Real Madrid have to travel 8,000 kilometers and 10 hours to Kazakhstan. Yeah, but don't worry, they'll be on private jets and stuff like that. Let's go Captain Wood. I really hope it goes well. I really do. Henry Bush says, good luck, Dylan. Decided to sell Guiu and Saka for Wood and Kudus and captained Chris Wood. Yeah, I did something similar. Instead, I sold Palmer, not Saka, and I bought Ismaila Sarr. We'll see how horribly wrong that is. Sefer says, benched Rangers for Rodgers. That's a difficult benching decision, just like in Dye versus Rangers. It could be 50-50. Barnes news could have been true, but Elanga out makes it 100% fake now. Oh yeah, maybe. Let me double check this, because I know NUFC Will has had his critics in the past, but yeah, it is the same account. I'm not sure what he would gain from trolling though. He says Share starts, Tonali starts, Asula starts, no Barnes, and no Elanga. So what I'm going to do now, since I've shown the Chelsea-Fulham lineups for quite a while now, is go through my scoreline predictions first. So I'll stick with these, I guess. Chelsea 2, Fulham 0, Man United 1, Burnley 0, Tottenham 2, Bournemouth 1, Sunderland 1, Brentford 2, Wolves 1, Everton 1, Leeds 2, Newcastle 3, Brighton 1, Man City 3, Nottingham Forest 2, West Ham 0, Liverpool 1, Arsenal 1, and Aston Villa 2, Crystal Palace 2. Come on, sir. So team weakness and stuff like that, I mean, I highlighted it before. West Ham, 8 goals conceded in 2 games. In Carabao Cup, they lost 3-2, of course, after taking the lead against Wolves. And I think Chris Wood is one of the best captaincy options this week. He's actually third, as you'll see towards the end of this section. And with the clean sheet odds, Man United are top with a 50% chance of a clean sheet against Burnley at home. Nottingham Forest are second. Chelsea make up the podium with Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur and Wolves in the top 6. Burnley are last with a 13% chance against United away. With the top 10 captains, I did actually make a change from yesterday, or actually it was a few days ago, the wildcard video, and I put Barnes in 8th, but you can forget about that now if NUFC Will is correct, because it looks like he could miss out against Leeds. So if that's the case, to take this spot, I'd probably say one of Kudus or Richarlison in the top 10, arguably. I think that's where I would go. So Ndoye would move up to 8th, Watkins 9th, and then probably a Spurs attacker making up the top 10. But that's assuming Barnes is out. We'll see how that goes. I do stick with the rest of my predictions or, rankings as well. Chris Wood is my captain. If I bought in Bruno Fernandes for free, I probably would have captained him as well, just to avoid Salah at home to Arsenal. But I do think logically he is still one of the standout captaincy options this week. Let's now go to the lineups. Actually, no, that's the league. Sorry, I went to the wrong one. So with Arsenal, I'm not going to change anything here, and I talked about this in yesterday's video. I think Aston Villa will have at least one of Malen or Guesson starting, but I'm going for both. With Bournemouth, an unchanged side there, and you can see in the top right the numbers of how many I've gotten right so far, and you'll see the updated scores for Chelsea and Fulham. So based on the early lineups we just got now, I've gotten 10 correct for both Chelsea and Fulham, so that takes my total to 29 out of 33 for Chelsea for the season, and so far it's not looking too bad. Even a few like Crystal Palace have been completely spot on. Bournemouth and Forest are 2 others, and we'll see how I get on with the rest. With Fulham, it's 28 out of 33 so far, so 5 incorrect. Harry Wilson is not starting, it is Castagna instead. And then yeah, with Leeds you can see their lineup, and also with Liverpool, what I think will be their lineup tomorrow anyway. And Man City, always difficult to predict. I actually did even better last season at the beginning of the campaign predicting their starting 11. With Man United, it's the same number. And with Newcastle, this is my updated version. So I've gone for Ramsey as the left winger and Lewis Miley starting alongside Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes. But that's if NUFC Will isn't trolling, because I originally had Elanga and Barnes alongside Asula in that front line. So we'll see how that ages in the end. Nottingham Forest, 22 out of 22. So I'm quite happy with that. Sunderland, only 1 incorrect, and I think that's fairly impressive considering they're a newly promoted side with a lot of transfers being made this season. So it's not always the easiest to predict these sort of teams. Tottenham Hotspur, 19 out of 22. I've gone for this starting 11 there against Bournemouth. With West Ham as well, they are playing a 3-4-1-2. So I have adjusted that in terms of the formation as well. And I think Callum Wilson could start over Fulkrug, and then Wolves is the final team. And reports indicate that Strand Larsen isn't with the squad. And I think Hwang Hee-chan is the most likely to start up front for Wolverhampton Wanderers against Everton at home. So that concludes it. I'll go back to FPL Challenge since obviously the deadline is gone for Fantasy Premier League. So yeah, I think we can lay that to rest for a few hours anyway. I'm going to go through some final questions and comments and then wrap things up. Thank you to those that have tuned in. Let's get this stream to 200 likes. It would be greatly appreciated. And even more people are tuning in now compared to the final few minutes of the deadline. So I do appreciate it. Let's make sure to get to that goal and close in on 35k. Gandhi is inevitable. Hopefully, that would mean Chelsea drop points. And yes, Valentino, that is hate. Bruno on 9 million DEFCON monster. Yeah. Well, he's in my FPL challenge team, so I will get points from him one way or the other. But FPL is the priority, of course. Ivan Markovic says this weekend I'll be mostly captaining Chris Wood. Yeah, same here. Let's hope it goes to plan. Paphos also debut for the first time, founded in 2011 from Cyprus. Yeah, I mean, some new faces. It's nice to see. Hopefully they don't get battered. That is the hope. Krista Parkey says Chelsea 1, Fulham 1, United 2, Burnley 0. That was my original prediction. Sunderland 0, Brentford 2, Spurs 2, Bournemouth 0, Wolves 1, Everton 1, Leeds 1, Newcastle 2, Brighton 1, City 2, Forest 2, West Ham 0, Liverpool 2, Arsenal 2. Was that? What about West Ham? Oh, you said West Ham again. I guess that's a typo. Villa 1, Palace 2. Yeah, I think with the Newcastle one, assuming that those two key attackers are also missing out, instead of 3-2, that could also change a little bit as well, actually, to 2-1 as well to Newcastle. But yeah, that's the thing. Things change so quickly in football. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Hudson-Odoi captain. All the best there. Decent record against West Ham. He scored against Palace last week. But yeah, Hudson-Odoi is a bit of a left field shout. Wood triple captain. Good luck, Crystal Clean. All the best with that. Fenerbahce 1907 says good luck with the game week, Dylan. Went with triple captain Milenkovic as a clean sheet is likely. And West Ham considered 4 corner goals in the first 2 game weeks. Yeah, Milenkovic was in my best free hit team video, and I mentioned the possibility of him scoring a set piece. I think that is possible. Hopefully it goes well for you, and both Chris Wood and Milenkovic get the returns. Let's not forget Maria as well. I only own Sanchez and Dorgu for today's games. Really nervous. Actually, if I look at my team, because I haven't really thought about that, to be honest, that was my squad beforehand. I have obviously made some transfers. I took a -4 hit. So from today's games, I've got Sanchez and Joao Pedro. I've also got Indai, who's on my bench. I've got Pedro Porro, and that's about it. So I will get a red arrow after Saturday, that's fair to say, because on Sunday, I've got Salah and Gakpo against Arsenal. I've got Rangers facing Brighton. I've got Konsa and Watkins facing Crystal Palace, and obviously Sarr facing Villa. And obviously a downside to buying Sarr is the clash I have with Konsa. Obviously that's a big concern for Game Week 3. And yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So I've got a lot of players on the Sunday, which also includes Murillo and Chris Wood captains. So if I do a reaction stream tonight, expect a red arrow from me. But that doesn't mean it's all doom and gloom, because I could save it on the Sunday. Do you think Van Dijk will get DEFCON against Arsenal for FPL Challenge? It's possible. I'm going to say yes. Newcastle or Brentford more likely to keep a clean sheet? Brentford. Dylan, do a reaction stream on Sunday? I can't though. I literally can't do it tomorrow. Yeah, I don't think it'd be possible. Like if I were to get home and then set things up, it'd be a very late stream, even later than the last few ones. And I've ended at like 11 p.m. and had dinner close to midnight. So I'm not sure if that will be, possible. Any idea why so many are buying cash from Villa? Well, Villa are top of the FDR until Game Week 8. He's cheap. Apart from that, I can't really tell you. All the very best, Dylan. Onwards and upwards. Thank you, Jash. Hey, Dylan, good to see you. I'm a bit late to the live stream today, but I ended up selling Palmer for Sarr and Guiu for Wood and captaining Salah. Yeah, I did the same, except with the captaincy. All the best to you. Hopefully Sarr and Wood do the business. United versus Burnley is so difficult to predict. Who would have thought that 10 years ago? Gusto pace to keep up with... yeah, obviously you said, never mind, no Robinson. Still think James makes us better overall. Yeah, I mean, I think you are correct. Maybe that's how Maresca expected Fulham to line up. But yeah, they have gone a bit more defensive at Stamford Bridge. Well, that's not a surprise there, ZZ Grom. Palmer was red flagged. He was confirmed out by Enzo Maresca yesterday. It was covered on my channel in my lineups video and also throughout the stream that you're seeing now. Kusanagi says, and that transfer of the wasted free hit was Mateta, also gave him the armband as a troll. Hope it pays off. I hope so too. Joao Pedro will haul as a number 10. I mean, I don't really care if he does or not because he's a template pick anyway. Yeah, Akraf, I covered both lineups and I did close the tabs, but basically, from what I showed in my lineups section, the only one I got incorrect for Chelsea was I put James and Gusto starting instead. And for Fulham, once again, a right back is involved. Castagna is starting over Harry Wilson, who does make the bench. 3-1 is my guess for the opening game. I struggle to have confidence in a Sanchez clean sheet, and Fulham always up for a game against us. Yeah, I think it could be quite low scoring. I think there'll only be 1 or 2 goals in it. I mean, I originally went for 1-0 Chelsea, then I changed it to 2-0. It's difficult to say. I mean, based on what we just saw on the lineups, I'm not sure if much has changed there. Who can't you stand Sparky? Yeah, he doesn't like Enzo. Arsenal's the title favourites this year. Well, that's what Salah said. I'm not so sure about that, though, because Liverpool a few weeks ago, obviously with the rumours of signing Isak, Arsenal hadn't signed Eze at that point, and obviously a few weeks before that, Gyökeres wasn't signed either. Arsenal went from 3rd to now possible title favourites. I'm not so sure, though, because I think the Premier League champion should always be in that conversation. And if Liverpool sign Isak, they will become favourites again for sure. No doubt about it. Does Enzo affect Joao Pedro's playstyle? I think Joao Pedro will do well, irrespective of Enzo playing as an attacking midfielder or playing deeper. I don't really think he has a big impact on Joao Pedro. And some people were arguing that JP will be even better without Palmer. Well, they linked up very well in the Club World Cup, so I probably disagree with that, to be honest. But yeah, Joao Pedro can do really well as an attacking mid or up front. And with the lap, they can both link very well too. So I think Chelsea have options now. And I don't think Enzo has a big impact on him. Maybe more so on Palmer than Joao Pedro. Hopefully the one I can't stand is on Pens rather than Pedro. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be Joao Pedro, but Enzo Fernandez isn't too shabby either. Best United defender for DEFCON, De Ligt. Yeah, Cherky out. He wasn't in my lineup anyway. Man City will begin their 25-26 UCL League phase with Napoli at home. Yeah, they definitely scripted that for De Bruyne's return. Barcelona's opening Champions League game will be against Newcastle at St James's Park. That will be interesting. I think Barcelona will win, but that will be an incredible atmosphere. Start Gabriel or Aït-Nouri. Yeah, probably Aït-Nouri. Even though the chances of him starting are slimmer than Gabriel's, I think both of them will get the nod. Yeah, no mums as captain this week. UCL fixtures are out. City first game, yeah. Time to welcome back KDB. With Watkins' price drop, does Villa turn it around? I hope so. The thing is, I've got Konsa, Watkins, and Sarr. Surely I get points in one way, shape, or form. The ideal scenario is for Watkins and Sarr to get the returns, but we'll see how that goes. I think Watkins will do well over the next 4 or 5 game weeks. I triple captain Sesko. I mean, it is Burnley at home, but I do think you're cooked when it comes to the triple captaincy. I captain Reinders with Cherky out. I think he can do damage. Yeah, even with Cherky, I think Reinders is a good FPL asset, and I hope that decision of benching and die for Reinders pays dividends. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, look, with the predicted lineups, not all of them are 100%, but I think the success rate has been quite good so far with all teams. Captain Cunha, all the best there, even though I haven't invested in United so far. Yeah, Real Madrid 8,000 miles, but in elite class. Yeah, exactly, so I'm not too concerned about that. United will not keep a clean sheet. It will be Onana in net. I'm not so sure if Onana starts, though. Bayande has been the #1 goalkeeper this season. I'm glad I bought Joao Pedro. Will you feel that way if he blanks against Fulham? We'll find out later. Yeah, why troll? Who wants Newcastle mids? Yeah, I just don't really see like him gaining anything whatsoever. If anything, he's going to lose credibility and followers if he gets it wrong. He's gotten some things right, but he's also gotten some howlers, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he deletes tweets that he's wrong about. That's what I've heard from other people. But hopefully, well, I don't want those players to be injured, but we'll see if he's correct about that or not. I would prefer Chris Wood too if I had him. Yeah, he's third in my captaincy list, Bruno Fernandes fourth, and the big two, Haaland and Salah, make up those numbers as well. I nearly captained Cunha, but I jumped on Chris Wood in the end. Pause. Watkins' last chance. If he keeps blanking, he is in my chopping block, even if Villa have Burnley and Sunderland. That's the thing, though. The same goes for Verts. Do you sell these players when they're about to have those really plum fixtures? I mean, yeah, that's FPL for you. It's always a constant debate, fixtures versus form and stuff like that. But Watkins is still a quality FPL asset. He just needs to click. Dylan, what source do you use for your score predictions? No, that's just my predictions. What I do is I look at both teams' form. I look at their head-to-head record, and then I just come to a prediction. And sometimes I get it spot on. I think I got Forest, Crystal Palace last week correct. But yeah, the others maybe not so much. Ahmad was shocking in the cup. The thing is, I was actually going to recommend him as a one-week punt against Burnley, because against Arsenal he had a great cameo off the bench. But then against Fulham, you know, kind of mixed bag, subbed off early. And then, yeah, in midweek, every United player, with maybe one or two exceptions at the back, like Maguire, were awful. Yeah, forgot they signed Ramsey. Yeah, I think he'll start as the left winger if Elanga and Barnes are out. I'm not sure, Blazy. We'll find out later on. We can discuss this in the reaction stream, which will probably take place after that game, so around 7:30, 8 p.m. Twisted Parky says professional. Not sure if Sesko can cook. They probably have a professional that does that for the team. Yeah, fair enough. I'm on about FPL points and cooking that way. It's what we expected apart from maybe James. Yeah, that one's always going to be a debate. I mean, people might now say, should we buy Gusto? I don't think so. I think James will still get plenty of game time. Is Burnley's Ramsey related to Newcastle's Ramsey? I don't think so. If I'm not mistaken, the Burnley Ramsey is Welsh. And obviously, you can have a family with an Englishman and a Welshman, but I don't think they're related, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, no, Harrison has just completely debunked that. He says they are brothers. Let me quickly check that myself, but I think you are correct then. Jacob and Aaron Ramsey, and that's not to be mistaken with the Arsenal cult hero. Yeah, they are brothers. Apologies for that. I was just chatting crap, as usual. Yeah. Dougal captain, I don't recommend that. Do you think Sesko can cook? Yeah, I covered that. And yeah, obviously people said it in the chat, so just ignore what I said a few seconds ago. I wish I had a system manager chip. I don't. I honestly don't. I did well with it last season, but yeah, it wasn't my favourite. Cylindra says after the international break, City will be facing United at home, Napoli home, and Arsenal away. All in 8 days. Yeah, I think City will win against Napoli, probably against United, and hopefully not against Arsenal. Hopefully you lose. One unexpected player will do double points today. Who will it be? I did mention players earlier. I was asked about the players who will do well on Saturday. Jacob Murphy. Let's put him in the pecking order in the mix. They sacked all of their house staff. Sparky says Harrison James. Oh, that's about United. Triple captain Salah against Burnley next week. It is definitely a consideration for me if I don't free hit. Cash is playing high up. Yeah, but does it warrant a price increase? I'm not so sure. He's not going to get that many goals or assists. Thank you, Punjabi. As he says, we are very close to 200 likes. Let's be sure to hit that before the end of this stream. I have been going live for 2 hours and a half, actually. Do a reaction tonight so I don't have to hear about it if we lose to City, and also of Arsenal against Liverpool, although I think a draw or win is possible. But yeah, either way, I think with tomorrow I just can't do it. And then on Monday, fewer people will tune in, so I think if there is a reaction stream, it will be tonight. Ahmad says, Joao Pedro, Johnson, Dango, Pope playing today for me. Yeah, look, in hindsight, if I looked at the Saturday-Sunday balance, maybe I would have gone for Kudus over Ismail Assar, but yeah, I've gone for these transfers. I've gone for something a little bit different, captaining Wood and going for Sarr. I don't have that many players today. Sanchez, Joao Pedro, Pedro Porro, and well, that's it. Yeah, just 3 players. In Dies on my bench, that could also backfire for me. Hi, Dylan. Thoughts on Esteval? Yeah, he's been very impressive in pre-season. We also saw some signs in the Club World Cup. He got a few Man of the Match awards, scored against Chelsea. Yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on, but I think long-term with the Chelsea attackers, Joao Pedro and Palmer are the ones to invest in. You've got Cucurella and Sanchez defensively, but he's definitely one to look at. I think he'll be a good FPL asset in the future for sure. Isak ain't moving till the winter window. It depends though, because if Newcastle sign Vissa and Liverpool make a big offer for Isak, I think he could move just before the transfer window closes. Martin says, good luck, Dylan. I actually saved my transfer and held on to Gyökeres, hoping Arsenal-Liverpool turns out to be an open game. If it is an open game, I think that favours Liverpool. Well, I mean, that's definitely debatable, to be fair, but Arsenal want to have a bit more control because I think their main strength is defensively, and if it does turn to be a basketball game, Liverpool do have superior firepower, so without Bukayo Saka as well, I think Arsenal want to have that not be a basketball game. They want it to be a bit more controlled. Even against United, it wasn't exactly how Arsenal wanted to play. They were very poor on the day, but they still got the clean sheet. Yeah, Wirtz and Gakpo, I think they can do well for sure, and hopefully Gyökeres does the business again. Haaland, no Salah, so free at Gameweek 4 is looking juicy. Yeah, that's fair enough. Obviously, you can buy Salah that way against Burnley away. Hi, fella, what is all right? Yeah, hope you are. Sesko triple, good luck. Yeah. Oh, ALL. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing what you're talking about now. I was confused. Morpheus says, Nick Waltemada confirmed to Newcastle. Yeah, I talked about that yesterday in my lineups video. £69 million. He's going to get lots of points. Well, eventually he should do, but it's not a guarantee. Yeah, I think he'll start against Wolves at home in Gameweek 4, but that's my current prediction. Transferred in Barnes and Joao Pedro, but there's rumours about Barnes slightly annoyed me. Hopefully not true. Yeah, if you're asking me, I think they are true, which is why I updated my predicted lineup, but who knows at this point? We'll find out later today. Judging from your team, you're predicting a Liverpool win over Arsenal. Wait, is that for me? Well, I've gone for a 1-1, actually. I'm just going for Gakpo and Salah, because why not? I either get points or I jinx them. So I'm not a Liverpool fan, that's for sure. I bought in Share, hopefully he performs. That is a bit of a risky one, because he was a doubt going into Gameweek 3 because of the head injury, but he did pass the concussion protocols. But yeah, I don't think Newcastle keep a clean sheet, to be honest. Maybe he scores, though. Madrid fan, can't you see my picture? Yeah, just about. And obviously it's clearer on the screen, which people can see in the video. Vinicius, I think that is. I can see a picture, just checking it. It could be because you're a Brazil fan. Sesko is Slovenian. Yeah, I know, but he's on about the Vinicius stuff. Whoa, what is happening here? Gakpo's going to be the ideal Bruno replacement for the Burnley fixture. Yeah, I've already got Gakpo, one of the good things I've done so far this season. It is early days. I still think Wirtz could outscore Gakpo in the long term, but so far it's looking good. Triple captain Chris Wood. Hopefully Afnan, he does the business. That is what I'm hoping for. Did I miss you mentioning a reaction stream for tonight? It's possible. That is the most likely thing to happen today. I don't think I can do tomorrow, and on Monday I think people will just be kind of tuning off, or they want videos and pre-recorded content for UCL Fantasy and FPL. So the plan is to do a reaction stream tonight. Tomorrow will be a day off for me, and then back to work on Monday and getting the content for those fantasy formats ready for you. Is Gameweek 4 a good time to free hit? Have 2 Forest, 3 City, and 3 United? Yeah, I think so with that sort of makeup. I don't really mind the City players, though, in Gameweek 4. Their main issue would be Gameweek 5, and obviously Forest facing Arsenal away. You would expect Arsenal to win that game, but Forest should still put up a fight, that's for sure. Thank you, Safir. Smash the like, as he says, and the game is updated. One good thing about Fantasy Premier League this season is that it does seem to update a little bit quicker this time round, but I hate the fact it keeps signing me out every single day. If Man U lose today, manager should be gone by Monday. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the players might be downing tools anyway for him. Look, I get it, and I think ultimately United might be in a similar situation to Arsenal a few years ago, where the Gunners had a terrible run. They had like 1 win from 10, which came against United. They were like 16th and below in the Premier League by December, and yeah, people thought Arteta would be sacked. I mean, the fan base was definitely turning on him. What maybe saved them a little bit is that it was during COVID, so there were no fans. Otherwise, I think that could have maybe pushed that a little bit. But I think what also helped Arteta is that he already won the FA Cup and the Community Shield, and there were signs already that Arteta, was already implementing some good ideas, and he was going to get the best of Arsenal in the long term. So, yeah, with Amorim, it might be a little bit different, but he did reach a final, of course, last season, and obviously losing that was catastrophic in my opinion. But yeah, I still think Amorim stays if they lose to Burnley, but the pressure would be severely on them. I just think with the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers, they appointed Amorim, I still think they'll give him a little bit more leeway, and they've spent so much money over the last year or so. I just came across a crazy fact. No English manager has ever won the Premier League. Alex Ferguson is Scottish. Yeah, that is the case. And obviously Wenger was one of the pioneers of the Premier League. Back then it was basically all British managers. And yeah, he obviously won the double with Arsenal on 2 occasions. He won a league season unbeaten. So yeah, basically the most successful managers in the Premier League. Well, obviously Ferguson is leagues above everyone else, but then you've got Guardiola in second, and I think the rest of the top 5 comprise of Wenger, Mourinho, and Klopp. I think that's the top 5 most people would kind of settle on. You can have the Sesko hat trick if you let me have a Salah one. Nah, I hope Salah blanks. I know you're talking to the United fan, of course, or the one who wants Sesko to get a hat trick and triple captain, yada yada yada. Haaland will score 4 and get 1 assist tomorrow against Brighton. I don't think so. So is Elanga on the bench? I've bottled it. I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, he just put an X next to both players' names. I mean, usually that would mean they're out. So yeah, there must have been an injury or something. Captain Tarkovsky on challenge. Not a terrible idea, and you might as well go for something a little bit different. What's that in relation to, Twisted Parky? Something in the chat? Something I said? I do say some outlandish stuff sometimes. So yeah, I'm asked about my scoreline predictions again. I'll show it one more time. They're kind of rough. I mean, between the Chelsea and United games, I kind of flipped them a little bit. So I originally said 1-0 Chelsea, 2-0 United. That's what I've currently got at the moment. And yeah, the rest I've kind of read out before, so I'm not going to do that again. Twisted Parky says, you can say no Englishman has ever won the Prem, but before the top league was called the Prem, they have. Yeah, of course. I mean, football didn't start with the Premier League in 1993. It started beforehand, right? That's why Arsenal have 13 league titles, and Chelsea have more relegations than league titles as well. Ahmad says, triple captain Salah Gameweek 4 or wait for Haaland in Gameweek 6. Difficult one to say, and I think we'll have a clearer picture after Gameweek 3. I do expect Haaland to outscore Salah this week, so that would probably push you towards Haaland triple captaincy, but at the moment, I would say Salah. At the moment. UCL fixtures in 3 days, 6 per match day, rather than 2 days, except the last match day. Yeah, that will be covered in my UCL fantasy content. There's a lot to discuss and dissect. I'll have more time to analyze the fixtures and also the best assets. And I'm not sure if UCL fantasy have now updated, so they show the fixtures. It usually takes them 2 to 3 days. So probably by tomorrow or Monday, we'll be able to have the full picture and pick our first drafts for the Champions League. For me, the Scots usually make the best managers. You might be right, but apart from Ferguson, what we're talking about, Dalglish? Not Dalglish. Probably what? I think Liverpool had some good Scottish managers in the past. I need to remember their names, but some of them might be from other nationalities, and I'm getting them confused. But look, Brian Clough, English manager, one of the best of all time. Won the Champions League with Forest, won the league with Derby County, and some good films about him as well. Do you think Palmer's back for Gameweek 4? Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, copyright. I did poorly in FPL Challenge last week, but then again, I forgot to change Palmer captain. That's my current squad. It's not locked in. I might change Collins, to be fair, but Tarkovsky, Fernandes, Haaland, Wood, and Sanchez, I'm quite happy with that. The last pick, I'm unsure about. Liverpool 2, Arsenal 2. I've gone for 1-1, but yeah, that could definitely happen as well. I hope Arsenal get the win. That would definitely be a statement. Best Gameweeks are free hit. It is team dependent, but I think Gameweek 4 would be very appealing for some people with a lot of Forest coverage and teams like that with difficult fixtures. If you don't have Liverpool players, for example, that could also look very enticing. Sesko, the new Wout Weghorst. Yeah, like it's early days, and Sesko's very young. He's got potential, but I've said this before. When people ask me, do you want Arsenal to sign him? No. I wanted Gyökeres. I wanted someone who could get the goals in now. I think with Sesko, you might have to wait a little bit for that sort of development. Hi, Dylan. Great content as always. You covered World Cup. Yeah, Club World Cup when virtually no other creator bothered. Had to swap out Saka and Palmer for Kudus and Gibbs White. Yeah, nice transfers. I do prefer Ndoye over Gibbs White at the moment. But yeah, Gibbs White is fine. And I think Kudus is a good pick. I might regret not going for him in the end. And yeah, Club World Cup I covered. A lot of people in the comment section and live chats were asking me to do it. And I was able to kind of cram it in. It was very tough to do because, yeah, I had to find a way to balance everything with work and also the videos too. And I did the same thing with the World Cup a few years ago and also the Euros for the past 2 tournaments. I went with Elanga as a transfer. It is not ideal if he's not starting, but he should still do pretty well coming on the bench against Leeds' tired legs with his pace. But he might not be on the bench. I'm not sure what is going on with him. So we'll obviously update you when it happens. You'll probably see it by the time I do the reaction stream, but yeah, it's not looking good right now. What's the maximum free transfers you can save up? 5. That was a key change introduced from last season. And also for AFCON, we get 5 free transfers in Gameweek 16. So whether you have, you took a -4 hit, whether you took multiple hits, you've got 5 free transfers, 1 or 3, it doesn't matter. You'll have 5 free transfers by the time you get to Gameweek 16. Ruben Amorim stressed and wants to quit United. Yeah, his press conferences and interviews have been quite mad. I don't really blame him though. But obviously as a manager, you've got to manage the press and the pressure and, also deal with the players' morale in a better way, in my opinion. There are memes of Amorim with a tactical board versus Grimsby. There are a lot of memes of United right now. Jose to United, one last dance. I just think Jose Mourinho, he just got sacked by Fenerbahce and he's not a long-term manager. What United need is a long-term appointment in the mould. I'm not saying like Arteta, but someone like that where you stick with him through the tough times and you believe in the process and you get through on the other side. Harrison James says, thank you as always, Dylan. Best of luck and enjoy your weekend. Might be in later for the reaction stream, although Aussie hours, it'll be like 3 a.m, so we shall see. Yeah, I understand it can be sometimes difficult to tune in, but I do appreciate those that always, find a way, from Malaysia as well, and from Asia, from all over the world. It is genuinely appreciated. And yeah, I'll try to go live straight after the final game tonight. And yeah, I'll see how many people tune in. That will also influence how long I go live for. But yeah, tomorrow will be a day off for me. I probably need it after all the content this week. And of course, we've got an international break, but I'll still be working behind the scenes on UCL Fantasy and FPL. Thank you, Wale, and I appreciate you tuning in and also moderating the chat. It is greatly appreciated as well. Yeah, the app and the website updated. I mean, it usually is 30, 45 minutes anyway. It's probably a bit quicker this season, I think. Does Amorim even want to be there? Every time I see him, he looks like he's just lost his lottery ticket or something. I think he regrets leaving Sporting because, let's not forget, they were like 10 out of 10 in the league. They were also in the top spots of the Champions League, actually. They destroyed Man City in his final Champions League game there as well. Stop this blasphemy of Haaland 4 goals. I really hope not. How about, Twister Parky, Haaland blanks and Brighton win, and Salah blanks and Arsenal win? Football team, FPL. That's the way I rank it. Was you reading stuff out? Yeah, fair enough. People call me a bot. I mean, that was a Club World Cup accusation I got. Native Faith says Sesko was never worth 74 million and could be a worse signing than Højlund. I mean, when United signed Højlund, he scored 9 Serie A goals. Sesko's numbers are not too dissimilar. 13 Bundesliga goals, but across all competitions, he got like over 20 and 30 goal contributions. I think he's a unique profile, right? He's got decent technical ability for a player of his size and stature, good physical profile, but in terms of finishing, I don't trust him. And there were reports by The Athletic that indicated that he was kind of put off from joining Arsenal in the summer of 2024 because he was not convinced he could actually start for the Gunners after seeing Kai Havertz's performance against Chelsea in a 5-0 win. That's a major red flag when it comes to mentality. I think with Gyökeres, you get the complete opposite. He might not be as technically gifted, but what you see is a pure goal scorer who wants to win and make the difference. At least we still got more than Spurs. We both got that in common, says Harrison James. Oh yeah, I made that comment about Chelsea. Sorry. Yeah, that was a bit rude. It was unnecessary, but I like to shithouse from time to time. Yeah, but Burnley have the same league titles as Spurs. Two league titles. That's embarrassing. Let's be honest. I mean, with Spurs, they do have a lot of FA Cups. They've got a few European trophies, but no Champions Leagues, so who actually cares? And yes, Arsenal have neither, but one day that will change. Hopefully I can see it. Signing off, Dylan, and guys, see you tonight. Yes, I'll see you soon. That is the plan. Why not 3-1-1? Because to be honest, I'm not fully convinced on Collins, Lacroix, and all these DEFCON potential players. Maybe De Ligt, but I would have to get rid of Fernandes. So basically, I have more confidence in the midfielders and forwards, and with defenders, apart from Tarkowski, I don't know who's going to get DEFCON. I'm not sure, Singh, because Bruno Fernandes can get DEFCON, and he's also got the goals, assists, penalties, etc. But against Burnley, I think United will have more possession. So yeah, I think maybe the DEFCON will be slightly lower this time around. Yeah, look, I completely get it with the 3-1-1. It's definitely a logical choice. I just don't have that much confidence in the individual picks, which is why I've got two defenders at the moment. Yeah, Bill Shankly, George Graham. Oh yeah, George Graham for Arsenal. And yeah, we forget they went to Tottenham. Jockstein and Dalglish. Yeah. Good names in there. I was going to say Bill Shankly, but I was getting him confused with Paisley. So yeah, Matt Bubsby as well. Yeah, Scottish. Come on. I mean, I've got Scottish heritage, but let's not go into that. Streets Won't Forget says people overrate Liverpool too much. 2 games so far, and they were second best in both games against the not greatest of teams. Well, against Newcastle, they conceded many big chances and faced 10 men. Against Bournemouth, I think that game was quite even, to be fair. Maybe 4-2 flattered them a little bit, but it goes to show how good their attack is. But defensively, they are very vulnerable. I think Arsenal could score a few goals there, but I've gone for 1-1. And yeah, we'll see what sort of game it is. If it's a sort of basketball game, that will favour Liverpool. If it's a bit more controlled and tight, Arsenal would have the edge. But I'm going for a draw, and it would be great to see Arsenal get a victory, and it might change the balance of the Premier League title race. Ahmad says, I have Mateta, Romero, and Van der Ven on the bench. Am I nuts? That is a great bench, and bench boostable, arguably. Replaced by Milenkovic, Nico Williams, and Johnson. Yeah, I would consider Mateta over Johnson, which I discussed earlier, but I get it, to be fair. Banter's all good and fun, apart from... Sorry, it's a part of the beautiful game. Yeah, I know, but some Chelsea fans don't like me for that, which I understand, to be fair. Sesko will be there. He just needs players working with him. Yeah, look, it's too early to judge. He hasn't even started a Premier League game yet, so we can't draw too many conclusions. It's not looking good right now, but ultimately, who has clicked? I know Cunha's looked lively, but he hasn't scored or assisted yet. He missed a crucial penalty in the shootout, and so did Mbumo, but these are still good players. They just need to have the right system, the right sort of chemistry, and I think United have a good attack on paper. Mainu wants to be loaned to play games, but United don't want to loan him out. Yeah, I saw that report by The Athletic. Yeah, Mainu was looking very promising under Ten Hag, and under Amorim, he just hasn't gotten the game time, and that system isn't really fitting him so much. Mainu and Baleba would do bits. Yeah, that's a good midfield on paper. And look, Casemiro hasn't started this season too badly, but he's no longer the same player he once was. Ugarte, I never liked. I said this from the beginning to my friends who support United. Defensively, he's decent, but he's got no technical ability really for a midfielder. He's not going to help you control games. And I think United needs someone who can control the tempo, and Baleba would help with that. Which league is the Challenge League? So yeah, I might have to change this to make it even clearer. So when it says OG League, that is FPL, basically. When it says League at the bottom, that is FPL Challenge. So the code is HWWQV4. Just check the description. You will see it ordered very nice and neatly, even better than what you see on screen. And you can join both leagues very easily. Does FFP need tweaking? Villa and Newcastle struggling in the transfer market. City, Arsenal, United, Chelsea can spend billions. Okay, look, I get both perspectives, and ultimately I support a so-called Big Six club, so there will be an element of bias there. What I would say is that I have seen a stat recently, and I don't have the exact figures, but there was a thing about wages in proportion to revenue, and Aston Villa have a really bad number. I think it was around 97%, whilst the likes of Arsenal have sustainable numbers. So I do think revenue does play a big part in this. What it does do, though, FFP and whatever PSR, it kind of preserves the status quo and it protects these clubs that are already in a great position. And for those teams that qualify for Champions League now in the past year or two, they will have a massive advantage over those that are making Europa League or don't even qualify for Europe, like Man United, for example. But obviously, United are such a gigantic club. If they lost that Europa League final, for example, compared to Tottenham, that would have a bigger impact on Tottenham on missing out, if you catch my drift. I think that was a bigger game for Spurs than for United. But yeah, when you look at Villa, Newcastle, those kind of outsiders trying to break in, it is a bit unfair, it seems, from the outside. And why were City and Chelsea able to spend so much money and yet Newcastle have so many restrictions? I think ultimately all of them should have been controlled a little bit, but we didn't see that until, what, the last decade, I guess. But even then, it's not a perfect system. There are loopholes, and I don't fully trust these governing bodies, whether it's UEFA, FIFA, the FA, whatever it is. But I can see both sides of the argument, but I think when you compare Newcastle and Villa's revenue to the other clubs, there are levels to it. Even with Spurs, they've got the training ground, they've got the facilities, and they are in the Big Six because of their finances. Yeah, the World Cup next year, the plan is to cover it, but I'll wait and see because it is going to be challenging. Oli is available as a temporary manager. Yes, he is. Another one who was sacked by Besiktas for not qualifying for the Champions League. So both him and Mourinho are available. Yeah, Mourinho to West Ham. I mean, if West Ham lost this weekend, I mean, I think Potter could be the first manager to be sacked, even over Amorim. The meme of him with the Nintendo Switch had me in tears, yeah. There's a lot of things flying around. I mean, that is absolutely crazy, but there you go. Garnacho's in Stamford Bridge now. I'll be honest, I think Spurs have done very well to get Xavi Simons. I think getting him for the reported fee, I think 60 million euros is better than Garnacho for 40 million. And also, Chelsea are looking to get Buonanotte. Play these Argentinian players, please. Don't just bench them and waste their careers. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean, Garnacho was rated by United fans a few seasons ago. I never really liked him, to be honest. I'm Argentinian, but he has potential. He is very raw. I think he needs to fix that attitude as well. And the consistency just isn't there yet. But there is some ability with the pace and dribbling. And yeah, it's up to him now to deliver. Jose to Forest. He and the owners have both bad tempers. How will they communicate behind the scenes? They should keep Nuno, is what I'd probably say. I will take that. Team more important than FPL. Just. Nah, for me, it's levels above. If you're asking me, would you rather Arsenal win the league and Champions League and you finish bottom and, you know, well, I mean, that's terrible for me and my channel. But yeah, I'm going to take Arsenal winning. Nicholas Jackson, loan to Bayern Munich. Here we go. It's a 50 million loan fee in euros. That is crazy, by the way. For Gameweek 4, would you rather play Dubravka against Liverpool at home or Sells against Arsenal away? Dubravka. Sorry. Sells. I'd rather play Sells. Why are Arsenal fans considered one of the worst fans in England? That's just an online thing. I honestly don't get it, to be honest, because I think Arsenal, United and Liverpool all have unbearable fans. They're the three biggest fan bases and clubs in the country, so naturally they'll be louder and you'll see more idiots online. But every club has their idiots and also logical and sensible fans. I also think, you know, AFTV and channels like that also have that sort of image. So rival fans will watch Arsenal fan TV when they lose and stuff like that. And I don't think necessarily that's a toxic platform because they do also show positive fans and different pieces of content. But yeah, I think that probably plays a big part in it. I think AFTV were a pioneer in fan media content and you saw a lot of rages and outbursts and stuff like that. Then you couple that with the Twitter idiots and you've got a lot of toxic fans in there. But ultimately, I think some Arsenal fans are sound. Then you've got others that are complete morons, but you can say that about any club. Van Dijk or Saliba could easily get DEFCON. I agree. They're probably the most likely on paper from that game. Prepare for the live stream today. Either disaster or wonderful game week. I don't really see it that way easy because, like I mentioned before, I've only got 3 players today, so I'm expecting a red arrow. But I think by the Sunday, it could look much rosier. So yeah, I'm going to already prepare myself and mentalize, or that I'm thinking of the Spanish way of saying it. But yeah, I'm going to basically be prepared for that sort of red arrow and just see what happens and hope for the best for the Sunday. Yeah, Moore is legendary for his Sociedad interviews alone. Yeah, uno, dos, tres times, or whatever he said. That was funny. Also, David Moyes Scottish. Yeah, he's a good manager. Not anywhere near the other managers you said, especially in terms of success, but he was really impressive for Everton over the years. And for West Ham, he won them a trophy. People can't forget that. Agree with your view of Garnacho. Yeah, look, he's not a terrible player. He's got the ability and potential, but I think the mentality is a big issue. Should Amrim change that back three formation to a back four? I don't think he will. He's always done it at Sporting. For United, every single game. He insists it's not the system that's the issue. And I get that. Against Grimsby Town, they didn't lose because of the back three. They lost because of the players and, some poor performances on the day. Alonso changed his back three to a back four in Madrid. Yeah, but I also think with Xabi Alonso, he might be more tactically flexible than Amrim. And let's not forget, Amrim did a great job at Sporting playing a back three. I just think United need to, whether it's Amrim or a different manager, they need to stick to a plan and not keep changing managers. Otherwise, they'll never get out of this rut. Mr. Parky says, yeah, the wage thing and revenue is right. I agree FFP is good to a point, but not sure it is quite right. Not just that we know Chelsea and City are fudging their accounts but get away with it. Leicester and Everton didn't. Yeah, look, and even Liverpool spending a lot this summer, they spent virtually nothing last season, so you can kind of see why they have so much leeway right now. They also won a lot of money for winning the Premier League and stuff like that. With Chelsea and City, they both were in the Club World Cup. Chelsea won it, so they got a massive inflation. So I just think these teams that qualify for the Club World Cup and Champions League will have a massive advantage over the rest, and it could create a sort of closed ecosystem, which no one wants to see. The same kind of, it could be said about the Premier League and the Championship, right? So those teams that are in the Premier League, you always see the same 17 teams, and then you see 3 go up and 3 go down from the Championship in a yo-yo. Hopefully that changes this season. The Oli sacking is harsh. He only took over in January. And he had a decent start, actually. So, yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, Jackson to Bayern on loan. I saw that earlier. Chelsea won like 80 million in general, but there is no obligation to buy, just an option. Matthias, to be honest, I want both of them, but Arsenal never won the Champions League, so that would be my preference if I had to pick. I mean, ultimately, Arsenal should be competing for both of them. They have done, not the Prem last season, Champions League a little bit, and the 2 years before that, they were very good in the Prem, in my opinion. It would be the Champions League because I think after that, there's no debate. Arsenal, third biggest in England, and for me, they're top 10 biggest clubs in the world. I still think that with a Champions League that cements it, no doubt about it. And obviously, I still think one Champions League is not enough for Arsenal. They should have more, but one step at a time. I would love that first one. The Premier League as well. Look, it's probably my favourite club competition. But yeah, Champions League for me. Just because of how important it would be to Arsenal. Mina says, when looking at defenders, do you value baseline BPS, DEFCON more than clean sheet odds? Yeah, that's a great point. I look at a combination of all of them, to be fair. Also attacking potential. But yeah, I've basically prioritized the clean sheet odds, basically. And Murillo's been a big letdown from that perspective and DEFCON. I think AFTV has a lot to do with being considered the worst. I think so too. Then you've got the Twitter fans as well. Spurs moving to the new stadium helped them generate a lot more revenue for FFP. Yeah, and to be fair to them, they have maintained the atmosphere. I mean, compare that to West Ham, who feel that the new stadium is soulless and they don't actually feel attached to the London Stadium. And also, I think the Bowling Ground or Upton Park, I went there once for an Argentina game, and it's a really, really good old school ground. It's a shame it's not there anymore. But yeah, I think Spurs did very well from a financial standpoint, moving to that new stadium with the new training facilities as well. I'm joking about the team thing. FPL is more important. Yeah, I get that. Obviously, it's obviously in jest. I'm always going to take club success over FPL any day of the week. Ideally, I'd have both, though. Rodrev says, would be great to have you on Saturday Social instead of any of these AFTV bias-deluded fans. To be fair, though, I think there is a guy on Sky Sports who represents Arsenal. I think he's Clive. I mean, I think he's quite logical. I don't agree with all his takes, but he does argue them well, and he's quite, consistent and also articulate in his views. So, look, some people on AFTV do have good opinions, or they aren't toxic, but yeah, with every sort of big platform, you're going to get some good ones and some bad eggs. It's just the way it goes. Most captain play in Gameweek 3? That's a good question. I think it's probably Salah still, but not by much. Yeah, the idiots online skew the view for people from the outside. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main reason, right? And obviously, in the social media world, we all have our opinions warped every single second about something. But yeah, trust me, I know Arsenal fans can be unbearable. I know it. Sometimes I am to my friends as a joke, but yeah, some people can be really annoying. Fenerbahce says the reason Mourinho was sacked is because of his public disagreement with the club. Oh yeah, he even said something like he doesn't know who the vice president is or something like that. And therefore he started and made very questionable subs in the Benfica qualifier. Unfortunately, that's the problem with Mourinho, and that's why, for me personally, I prefer Wenger. I just think in terms of long-term success and also a manager staying there for many years, Mourinho has never done it. He's always been there for 2 or 3 years. There's a great high, in the middle of his tenure, and then he just goes massively wrong and he always gets sacked. But he is one of the best managers of all time. His CV speaks for itself. He isn't a long-term solution, and he's no longer the same manager as he once was. He's not getting the top jobs, but of course his tactics are still impressive at times. True, but we know City and Chelsea are fudging accounts because they've been subject to big investigations. I agree. I also saw like a graphic about spending in a single season, and they take inflation into account. And Chelsea are like their numbers are astronomical. When Roman came in 2003, 2004, the numbers they were spending in relation to the rest of the league was actually crazy. And they were breaking transfer records, all the time. And obviously City continued that a decade later. But yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know the documents and the evidence. I'm not going to say anything, but I think a lot of us have that opinion that they should be punished, especially City, but I just don't see that being the case. In Nkunku to AC Milan, permanent deal. Yeah, I think Chelsea are very good at selling, even though they have lost like 30 million on the Nkunku transfer. That was a flop. But they do still get a lot of decent value in a lot of these players, which Arsenal don't. Wolves also signed a new striker from Genk. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Strand Larsen, but he just joined permanently, to be honest. Top 10 biggest clubs in the world. I don't think Dortmund's bigger than Arsenal, to be honest with you. And if you compare the fan bases, I think Arsenal are bigger than Dortmund, Ajax, and Lyon. And by the way, if your argument is Arsenal haven't won the Champions League, which is fair enough, Lyon haven't won it. Only Marseille and PSG have from France. I do think before the Champions League, PSG were never in the conversation of top 10 biggest clubs in the world. I still personally think Arsenal are bigger than PSG. That's just my opinion. The ones that are bigger, yeah, Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, Inter, AC Milan, United, Liverpool, I agree with those. I'd put Arsenal ahead of the others. And in terms of overall trophies, I think Arsenal have 49, so they would be in that sort of conversation. Let's not forget Juventus as well, to be fair. They would be, not in terms of fan base, but they are bigger in terms of success than Arsenal. So yeah, I'd put Juventus ahead of PSG, Lyon, Ajax, and Dortmund, and I'd put Arsenal ahead of the others. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but they're certainly in the conversation for the top 10, top 15 for sure. What did you say? Bayern paying 15 million euros for the loan fee, which is insane in my opinion. Chelsea signed 3 Brighton players this summer. Are Brighton the new factory for Chelsea? Well, even a few years ago, Graham Potter and the entire coaching staff went there. Also Levi Colwill. There's other options. Cucurella as well. I'm probably forgetting a few other examples too. Amrin playing Operation is funny also. Yeah, there's a lot of different things there. No, Singh, to be honest, I don't. In Europe, there's no denying it that Chelsea are far more successful, but like I mentioned before, Arsenal have 13 league titles, Chelsea have 6. Arsenal have 49 trophies. I think Chelsea have 26, 27, something like that. Chelsea are the 4th biggest club in England based on success, but I still think Arsenal are bigger, to be honest. I think it's United, Liverpool, Arsenal, then Chelsea. You probably have City in there as well, but even the likes of Everton and Sunderland, they've got like a lot of league titles and stuff like that. We can't just forget that. And yeah, football didn't start in 1993 or in 2004. It started hundreds of years ago. Now, respectfully, what are Lyon doing there? Yeah, I don't think Lyon are in the top 10 conversation. Definitely not bigger than Arsenal for me. And I think Marseille are bigger than Lyon, at least in terms of they've got the Champions League. I'm not sure how many league titles they both have, to be fair. Maybe that swings it to Lyon's favour. And I remember before PSG's rise to prominence, Lyon were the most successful team in France in the early 2000s, to be fair. Oli got sacked before the Besiktas loss in the Conference League playoff yesterday. Yeah, you're right, not Champions League. That was Mourinho and Fenerbahce. UCL game day arrived. Yes, some of that was highlighted in the live chat, and I'll be going through it in my UCL Fantasy videos as well. Chelsea knew they were in trouble, so quickly flogged a load of hotels and sold some players to themselves. Yeah, also that thing about having different sister clubs, Man City with Girona, and clubs around the world, one in Uruguay. You've also got Chelsea with Strasbourg. I'm not sure how that's allowed. Then you see Crystal Palace not allowed to play in in the Europa League. Yeah, very shoddy business there. Chelsea just have a thing for Brighton. Yes. Make sure to beat them when you face them. But yeah, we'll see about that when the time comes. So my FPL Challenge team isn't fully locked in yet. Will I even remember to make changes? We'll see. That will be the plan. And stay tuned for a reaction stream. It will probably be tonight. Obviously, I locked in my transfers earlier today. I took a -4 hit in Fantasy Premier League. I bought in Chris Wood and captained him. We'll see how that goes. The most likely change I'll make in FPL Challenge is Collins to another defender, or I'll go back to another midfielder and go for something a bit more offensive. I previously had Ismail Assar, who is now in my FPL team. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for FPL and UCL Fantasy, and there's a lot more headed your way very soon. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM. You can also find me by typing FPL Dylan. There's my Discord server, which keeps you up to date with every single price change, goal, assist, bonus point, and lineup. There's also my Patreon and the Championships. A big up to the new members and super chatters from today, and to Paredes for gifting 10 memberships. You're greatly appreciated. I'm just going to quickly see, before I wrap up, if I can gift memberships now. If not, keep your eyes peeled for a stream in September, and that's when I'll be gifting memberships. I do that every single month, so always keep your eyes peeled for that as well. So hopefully I can do it. That'll be a nice way to end the stream, but I'm not going to guarantee anything here. Let's see if I can gift 10. That would be brilliant. No, it's not possible, unfortunately. Yeah. So just wait a couple of days for the next set of streams. So not the reaction stream tonight. The one after will contain 10 new memberships to those watching. Please explain to me in what mad world Chelsea loan Buonanotte. He probably won't get any game time. I completely agree. And Buonanotte came from my favorite club in Argentina, Rosario Central, and he showed a lot of potential. I actually saw him live for a game once. I think it was in March 2023. It is a shame, to be honest. I thought Buonanotte would kick on at Brighton. He had a good loan spell as well, but yeah, Chelsea just seems like the wrong move for him. I felt the same way about Lo Celso to Tottenham. Obviously, you could argue, you know, for some transfers like Romero, it's not terrible at Tottenham, but yeah, sometimes I don't know what these Argentinians are thinking about. Mina says, thank you, Dylan. Good luck to you. We'll see you in the reaction stream. Thank you very much. That is the plan. Roman has changed the situation for Chelsea, but after he was forced to sell, something changed with Chelsea and Todd Boehly. Yeah, but even then, mate, I mean, whether it was with Roman or now, I don't know, something seems a bit dodgy as well, especially with the joint ownership and all these different sister clubs. It's a bit like F1 with Red Bull and it's now called, well, not AlphaTauri, I think it's called Red Bull Racing. Yeah, it poses questions all the time. I'm a Brighton fan, obviously, but the Palace thing was unfair when compared to City getting away with it. I completely agree. Cheers, mate. I'm not expecting an amazing game week here, but please be all right. That's the hope. A green arrow before an international break is what you really want, and it gives you nothing really to worry about, at least for a few days. In any business, I believe the owner should have the right to invest in as much as he wants, however he wants. Obviously, no business has the divine right to be successful. Yeah, look, and you can spend a lot of money like Man United over the years, and whilst they've won a few cups here and there, they've still obviously plummeted in the league table. So, yeah, investment doesn't guarantee success, but it gives you a great chance. My problem is, why are Chelsea, or why were Chelsea and City able to spend so much, and yet Newcastle can't? I mean, the only possible explanation I have for that is the revenue they generate, but even then, Chelsea didn't generate that much when Roman first came in. They really didn't. Now they are. They've become a big club since then, but they weren't back when he first invested. Thank you, Greg Best. All the best to you as well. Only other teams punished have been smaller. Yeah, I agree. If applied to all, it's fair, but it isn't. Yeah, point deductions for Forest and Everton over the years and stuff like that. City and Chelsea, I'm still waiting, by the way. Thank you, Singh, and I appreciate it. Buonanotte will be loaned to Strasbourg, co-owner to Chelsea. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just very weird, though. And then Chelsea will inflate his value that way and then sell him like they did with Petrovic. Yeah, just very weird stuff. Same thing with Man United. They were strong from the grassroots up. Operative word were. Yeah, that's a great point. There are a lot of rich owners that have multiple clubs. Yeah, Marinakis is another one with Nottingham Forest and Olympiakos. And Edu also works for all of those clubs in tandem. So yeah, Rangers did get the win in the end with 55%. That is who I've started over in Die. Hopefully it pays off. I do find it annoying when Chelsea state-owned teams buy oil barons. This is exactly how their success started, just in Europe, so gets a pass. Yeah, look, ultimately, look, Chelsea are another London club. They become successful because of Roman. And yeah, I think they kind of started the movement. If it wasn't them, someone else would have, but yeah, that's why, I don't know, there's something about Chelsea I don't like, just being honest. I mean, that doesn't affect my FPL coverage of them. I always take my personal feelings aside when I analyze who's a good FPL asset or not. But yeah, I kind of share your sentiments about Chelsea. But there are a lot of fans in the chat, so big up to yourselves, even if we don't like the same clubs. You are right, PSR should be abolished. Yeah, I think PSR is worse than FFP, based on what I've seen over the years, but we all have our different opinions, and ultimately, they have failed at times, unfortunately. Newcastle, technically the richest club in the world. Yes, but they can't even spend it. They've been very methodical with their spending. Wait, Chelsea haven't bought Buonanotte. They loaned him. Yeah, it's just really weird. I mean, I think he should have got a game time at Brighton, to be fair. And his best position is probably in a central area, but he has played a lot on the wings for Rosario Central during his loan spells and also for Brighton. I actually saw him live for Brighton as well in a 6-0 win against Wolves, and he played on the right-hand side, I believe. And he can play well there, but I think he's better in the centre. Thank you, everyone. It has been a blast talking to you. And like I said before, check all the links in the description. Thank you to those that liked, subscribed, commented, participated in the live chat, to Paredes for gifting 10 memberships, all the super chatters, patrons, and new members. You are genuinely appreciated. I'll see you very soon. The plan is to do a reaction stream tonight, and then after that, throughout the international break, I'll be producing FPL and Use Your Fantasy content. I'll see you then.